Hello and welcome on back. More Content Creator Cup. Anthony Malum, J-Mac with me. The games today so far have been crazy, I think is the best depiction. I said anarchy, I stand by that too. And we saw Team iDavy 2-0, Team Captain Twig, but we still have two teams left to go to play today, and that's Team Rudy and Team Costic, J-Mac.
Yeah, these are two pretty powerful rosters. Team Rudy been one of the more dominant ones throughout the course of the SCCC. Week number 1 of qualifying stage takes a first place. Week number 2 takes a second place. And then week 3 goes third place. So they were able to get all the top 3 spots throughout their course and then solidified themselves here for the number 1 seed for North America. I think that this is the team to beat when it comes to the NA squads out here. And I'm expecting a lot of interesting stuff to kind of pop out between these two teams, especially when it comes down to the draft. The teams have already gotten a chance to kind of play on the reverted 9-5. They got that first look at the 11-6 patch. Now I've had a little bit of competitive time on it, and now I've gotten to see kind of how some of the other teams have molded the meta a bit.
They have gotten to see it indeed, so let's take our chance to take a look at the bracket and see what's going on there. And you see the 2-0, you see Team Rudy, you see Team Costic tomorrow. Whoever wins this match is going to be facing Team iDavy in a best-of-5 matchup for those finals. So it's where you want to be. It's what you want to do, J-Mac. But I don't think it's going to be an easy round because you touched on it a little bit. But these were two of my favorite teams to watch. I personally was really enjoying catching those games for Team Rudy. There was something about the way that they were playing. One of the more cohesive teams, I think is a good way of putting it.
Yeah, this is a team that you could kind of tune in at almost any point in the game. You hop over, you see what Rudy's doing over there. He's just kind of chilling over there, hanging out, farming, maybe get a kill here and there. And you just hear the random pop-offs that pop up between the team. And that was probably my favorite part of the first portion of the Creator Cup, was sitting in, getting to watch the streams from the captain's POVs, listening to the communications between the teams throughout, and just seeing all the fun that kind of popped up. Some teams a little bit quieter, just kind of playing the game, just another day in the park for them. Other ones maybe a bit more chaotic and crazy, some a bit more competitive. And I think that Rudy's comms and team synergy was kind of a mix of all of those. Very calm at the points it needed to be, had a lot of very thorough communication when it came down to team fights, and just crack a couple of jokes between each other in the meantime.
Well, there's one thing we love from these content creators and their teams. It's their yapping. So taking a look at Team Rudy before we do start to hear from them. Also, handsome photos. All the photos, J-Mac, I've loved so much. I love Team Captain Twigs with Team Rudy's, and look at the faces. They came ready to game.
Yeah, they're out here ready to battle for that charity, take home that first place if they can do so, and battling for Leukemia and Lymphoma Society here for Team Rudy.
So
I'm interested to see maybe what some of the meta kind of pops up, maybe to hear a little bit from the captain in a little bit as well. Going up against a team that actually doesn't have their captain playing in for Costic. I think Costic's only stepped in maybe once or twice for the team throughout the phase. Right. Otherwise, has kind of been more of that coach role for them. But having Rudy step into the shoes, not only as the captain, but playing here in that dual lane. For the most part, Hunter role isn't really one of the more vocal ones throughout the early portions of the game. It's, hey, my dual lane isn't here. Let's go for a Gold Fury. And then they're kind of quiet outside of that until you hit about that 20-minute mark when you start rotating around for going for Pyromancers, going for Fire Giants. So I'm interested to see kind of how the team dynamic is here in a LAN setting, because for a lot of the players out here, just in the event in general, this is their first time stepping in for a LAN. They haven't had a chance to come out for things like SCC LANs or SPL for a lot of these folks out here. So for most of the players out here, this is their first time getting to sit next to their team, full 5-stack, PCs next to each other, and really getting to have that immediate level of communication with each other.
And just like you and I were talking about, for my experience being this is my first LAN, the difference in being able to just speak to you by my side and get a gauge of how you're feeling, what you want to talk about casting, has to be the same thing for the players, if not easier. It's the solo looking over as jungle like, you want to come to my lane? I could use a little bit of help. It's that exact same vibe. But we've got ourselves an interview on tap. So let's hear from Team Rudy and get that interview going with good old Dawson.
Good old Dawson. I don't know about that, but I appreciate you, Malum. Rudy, captain of Team Rudy, here with me. One of the highlights during that pre-interview, pre-recorded segment was that this team really embodies the ranked mindset. Do you feel like that is the identity of this team, the ranked 5-man?
Yes, I definitely do. Most of my community is ranked players, so it's really interesting. It's also really fun to play with them in ranked, so I have a lot of experience playing with many of them.
And it's our first set of the day, and really all throughout the Content Creator Cup, high kill games, right? Do you feel like these games are far off from what you're experiencing in the ranked queues, or is this just another ranked game to you?
I think it's just another ranked game, honestly.
Understood. Your opponents on the other side, Team Costic, what do you know about them? You go up against any of them in the ranked queues? Anyone you're trying to snipe here in Game 1?
I think it's mostly Malachi. I'm looking out for him.
Got it. during that interview, I think, was it you that said you are the most likely to feed on your team? And I don't know if that's just because your team was in the booth with you. Now that you're here alone, do you want to change that answer, or is it still you?
It's still between me and Bop Bop. We like to run it down.
Which can be a good thing. Who do you think is the most likely to carry on your same answer, just on the other side? Either you're throwing or you're carrying?
I definitely think so, yeah. It's either going to be either me or Karmic.
What do you think? 2-0, 2-1?
2-0, hopefully. We're looking to dominate.
Dominate, 2-0. You heard it from Rudy himself. Appreciate you. Best of luck in your game. Go back to the desk.
Looking to dominate and confidently calling a 2-0 J-Mac at that, while at the same time saying, I'm going to feed. So I'm going to feed 2-0 you and walk away happy and smiling, ready for my charity to, you know, enjoy my winnings, enjoy my hard work.
Yeah, I think the shout to King Bop Bop is also a pretty big one there, because while we were watching some of their matchups, King Bop Bop had these random moments where he would just absolutely pop off, and I think that brings that extra level over to the dual lane. And I think they're going to need it, because the direct call-out was to the opposing dual lane there of Team Costic, Malachi, and then Grave kind of rounding out that duo. So I think that there's a lot to be said for these rosters to kind of go out there, because these are also a bunch of ranked players, a bunch of ranked grinders, and not only that, some players who have had some SOC and a little bit of SCC potential talent as well on these squads. So I think that this is going to be one of our big matchups to really watch out for here between these two squads. I think now, whether this makes the actual interview video that we have for them, you know, we got to see the interviews with the teams. I popped in and I was talking with Team Costic, and I asked them a question. I said, who do you guys think is like the most likely to throw the game? Without hesitation, every single person was pointing over at Grave over in the duo lane. So I think that a lot of eyes are on the Rudy versus Grave, the Bop Bop versus Malachi matchup in duo. I think that's where a lot of action is to be looked at and to be sought after for these ones. But you definitely have to keep eyes over there in the mid lane as well for XD001, Mr. Shadow Lugia himself, and see, because at moments he'll just absolutely pop off. Throws up the Vulcan out there representing St. Jude's as well, which is a big one. And this is actually one that had a lot of personal kind of attachment to it as well for this team. So these guys really fighting hard for this charity.
And that's really important. I mean, that ultimately is what we're doing here. And I said it yesterday in Casual Friday, and I mean it today too. Everybody wins when charity is involved, and that's the key of this weekend. And that's what Content Creator Cup's culminating in, is this important effort for charity. But going to the players, I'm on board with you. I'm 100% on the same wavelength. XD001 is my go-to to watch. I've gotten to cast them a lot. I've gotten to see them a lot.
Shout out Dashboard.
Yeah. Get in the queues for Dashboard. After the game, of course, because it's going to be a must-watch set. You can't miss that. But yeah, XD001, that's my watch, absolutely. Reading a book before we get going. This team's got lore, J-Mac.
What's he reading here? I can't really see. Something from Brandon Sanderson, I think, is what it is.
You have better eyes than me. How did you do that? Do you have...
Oh,
there we go!
The Words of Radiance. Okay, I've never heard of that or read that, so best of luck to you there, Malachi, in your pre-game reading session.
That whole booth has good vibes. They've got the Dashboard shirts. They've got the book club going on. I mean, I'm not picking a favorite, but come on. How can you not feel a little bit confident when you got vibes like that in the booth?
These guys got the synergy. They're ready to go. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think the whole team has those shirts, but only a couple of them repping it right now. So, interested to see how it kind of pays off for the team. You call it there again, the Dashboard queues. These guys are probably also ones to try and jump in the Dashboard queues. I think they even said that those are some of the better queues to try and jump into if you really want to get some good action, some good gameplay.
That's the ones you got to lock down, for sure. Not the first people I've heard say that, won't be the last, but as a team overall, those 1v1 matchups are so important too. But one thing for these teams is a lot of them know each other. And for Team Captain Twig versus Team iDavy, we kind of had the discussion of, oh, some of these players, they haven't played against each other a lot because Team iDavy was with EMEA. But with these two teams, they know each other like the back of their hands. So with that, let's get into an interview with Team Costic and hear what they've got to say. Over to you, Dave.
Costic, head coach of Team Costic, here with me before game number one. You get a unique bird's eye view of everything that goes on, picks and bans, all the strategy. Who on your team are you most worried about feeding here in game number one? Anyone on the squad you think might have a tough performance in the first game?
Grave, 100%. That's the only doubt in my head. I'm just kidding.
But, I mean, I've watched Grave for years. Also potentially a carry in game one?
Absolutely, absolutely. He might feed in lane because, he's relatively new to the dual lane, but he does land his autos. He does have good mechanics. It's just the laning that might be a little bit rough for him.
I talked to Rudy of Team Rudy. feels like their team really encompasses the ranked mindset. Do you feel like your team also encompasses the ranked mindset? What's the team identity of Team Costic?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, bunch of ranked gremlins. I know all these players are all great dudes, all talented players. They should be really fun games to watch.
On the other side, Team Rudy, as we mentioned, anyone you're keying in on, any pick and ban, isolation, anyone you try to ban out on the other side?
King Bob Bob. Watching out for him.
Is there some history there?
He's got a really good Ares. Yeah, he's got a really good Ares.
I imagine we won't see much of that Ares, maybe, if you have anything to say.
Yeah, maybe. If it were up to me, I'd be banning Ares, but, we'll see.
Do you feel extra pressure? The team's named after you. How did that come to be? Head coach of the team named after you. Do you carry a little extra weight with that?
I have a long time history with all these players, good friends of mine. And, yeah, we just wanted to give it a shot.
Leader of the squad, it sounds like. I appreciate it. Best of luck in your first game. Go back to the desk.
Well, I like that one. I like the confidence in that one, but I think more importantly, I like the call out of the Ares. And I like, take some power. You're the coach, you're the captain, it's your name out there. Walk back in that booth and say, all right, we in picks and bans? Ares, gone. What's next, gang? Take the power.
That's the reins that you do have as kind of the coach for the team, the bird's eye view. If you think that this player has a really good individual god that could potentially be the deciding factor, just tell the team to ban that one away. Or if you want to maybe test your luck at it, think you have something to counter against it, you can give that up to them or maybe try and take it for yourself. I think there's a lot of decision power that you do have as the coach, but ultimately it does come down to, do the players want to actually go through and listen to what you said and play through that, or do they have something else kind of on their mentality for that one? I think that really throwing shots towards support might be one of the better calls right now. We saw in game 2 of our previous set, there were 9 support bans. It was 9 Guardians.
Yeah.
I can't say all support because there was like a Cthulhu in there as well, but there were 9 Guardian bans. And then Chunga was the black sheep in all of that one, which just throws everything out compared to what we've been seeing as far as meta is concerned. So maybe there is some extra emphasis and weight on these Guardians. Take the Ares away. I think it's a nice and easy call. The Charon could be a good shout as well if you want to have something of similar levels of aggression. If you're wanting to ban King Bob, I think you also maybe take the Sylvanas away. That was a good pick for him throughout the early stages of the SCC. Insane amounts of pulls that he was able to get on that god. Great setup just as for the god in general. Healing being much more relevant now, because of everybody's lowered HP, means that those heals are much more valuable than they were in previous patches. So some potentials that direction. I think just based off of what we saw, Hunter doesn't really matter. You can throw just whatever Hunter you want to play at that point and see kind of what happens there. I think it really does come down to, more than anything, I think your frontliners and your jungler are probably the most important picks you can get in the early stage.
Most important indeed. Let's get into picks and bans for game 1 and see where the stuff actually goes too. And you made a lot about support make a lot more sense to me. I've been seeing the bans come through, and it's such a fight-heavy meta at the moment. A lot of focus on solo, also mid and jungle, always a bit scary. But being able to really hone in on support being something to watch is already interesting, as the Chunga already gone. So there's that 10th, that standout you talked about. But the Chalk ban, that grabs my attention far more.
It's a bit of a weird one. You would think that with everybody's health going a little bit lower, Chalk already wanting to build a little bit more damage like we have been seeing from some of these solo laners, it makes a lot of sense. He just hasn't quite had the level of performance yet, so I think that this is more than anything just a comfort ban up against Karmic, who's probably been practicing that a little bit. The Kuzenbo also just makes a ton of sense. Nemean is back. Thorns are good. Kuzenbo shell spikes are good. You throw all 3 together, and your carry's having the most miserable game of their life. So I would be surprised if we ever saw Kuzenbo make it past the ban phase. Whereas you look with what Team Rudy has gone for, it's been a lot of those quick standout gods with the revert coming through. The Chang'e, the E-Shell, those are 2 of the best mid laners that were popping up immediately after those revert changes came through. Erlong Shen now having that turtle knockup back means that he's one of the more potent junglers that you can pick up. And especially because some of the itemization of the jungle has been getting buffed over time. And most importantly, one key item from auto attack junglers brought back in the game in Stone Cutting Sword. Now that that item is back, and with how good things like Mannequin Scepter is to be able to kill out the jungle really quickly and get poke on enemy god, it just makes auto attack junglers, especially the warrior style ones like Erlong Shen, so much more dangerous in the early stages of the game that if your mid laner doesn't have a leap or a dash of any kind, if they step up to that halfway point in the lane, they're most likely just dead.
I'm waiting room for Kali, personally. I've been wanting to see Kali. I feel like I haven't gotten to see her enough in a lot of those community leagues of seeing who gets picked up by these same players. So looking for that to come through. One thing that's developing is sort of, no surprise to anybody. I think they set it on the desk for Game 1 as well, where Charybdis feels like, oh yeah, if we're going back to the revert, Charybdis is who comes to mind. So she gets locked in first for Team Costic alongside a Fafnir. So a great combo there, but still an Arthur open, J-Mac. And that's kind of the other character that I'm still looking for and waiting if we're going to see.
Yeah, Arthur, Artio, those two gods right now work really well with that Shield of the Phoenix item that has come back, aka Old Gladiator Shield for some of the older heads of SMITE. Maybe a little bit surprised we don't see one or the other kind of locked in here immediately, but maybe just holding on to that one a little bit. The Nuwa, I think, is maybe the most interesting out of these ones to kind of hit the draft, because Nuwa herself isn't particularly OP or crazy or anything like that. But with the changes to health coming down, those fire shards are getting a lot more value in the early game, where what was doing 50 damage to a 1000 HP target is now doing 50 damage to an 800 health target. And still, 50 damage is 50 damage, but it's a lot easier to get those kills. And maybe the most important one, the pet procs. Those clay soldiers, essentially with the prot shred that they provide, in the early stages give nearly true damage to whatever enemy you're throwing it at, as long as it's a squishy target at that point. And being able to proc other items, so you're getting your soul reavers, your soul gems, your conduit gem. All those things are procking at one time when this Nuwa is throwing those clay soldiers out, and it's just stacking up damage after damage on there. You look over to the opposite side with the Charybdis Fafnir dual lane.
Arthur!
That's a really hard one to really fight into, and I think that Fafnir has been maybe criminally underrated for such a long time. Now is even more insane than he was before. What was originally 20 seconds scaling to 60 for his ultimate duration, now starts at 40 seconds that he gets that dragon transformation at level 1. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
He gets to stay a dragon for 40 seconds immediately. It is insane how much of a buff this god has been getting time and time again, and people are still not playing him. If this change to him, plus the buff to Coerce, doesn't put him at the top of the meta for supports, I don't know what does. It's similar boats of gods like Maui who just keep getting buff after buff after buff to essentially he's almost at the same point he was on release, and people are still not winning with him. People are still not playing him. At that point, what is it, as maybe as Rudy say, at that point it almost just becomes skill issue for some players. So I'm very excited to see what this Fafnir and this King Arthur can do, because as you said, you finally get the King Arthur to see.
I finally get my King Arthur. I've been expecting to see it. It was in my notes. I must have written down King Arthur 100 times of people who are in the tournament this weekend who've been playing it in their ranked games, playing it in their scrims, in their community league games. But, I do want to touch on the Fafnir too. Fafnir was kind of becoming a staple for me of the Content Creator Cup early on a bit, from teams like Team SK Peso early on in the tournament, where that was their go-to and kind of their hard carry out of the support role. So we'll see if it does pull through the same way. As we've got some other bans that have come through. Artio, Chiron, both off the table. Ratatasker is gone as well. The Rat in particular, with some changes to items that we've been talking about, with Sustain. Rat's been an interesting one to me, because the Healing Acorn, it can be so good. And the Ratatasker can bring so many different aspects and different angles to team fights and just overall flow of the game that before didn't feel like options. So it's too bad it's gone.
Yeah, the buff to the heals that came to all that side of the tree for the Acorn, going from 5 to 6% on the Evergreen itself. The extra power as well that's come to every single one of those Acorns, an extra 5 damage on top for every single one of them, just gives them that extra little bit of bump. But it does make sense to ban the Artio. If you're playing King Arthur, Artio is probably the most miserable matchup, because 3 of your abilities just get completely thrown out the window at that point. So I do like the ban there. Chiron also makes sense, does a ton of damage at this point in the game. I wouldn't hate the Anubis, but I don't know if I would love the Anubis in this match. And it's because of one god in particular, Cerberus. You walk up with Cerberus to an Anubis, you're miserable. You get hit by, if he builds a Divine Ruin, you don't heal. And all you're doing is just healing the Cerberus at that point, because Cerberus steals some of that healing that you get. They reduce it naturally just by standing in proximity of you, throwing any amount of extra anti-heal. And that Anubis has an awful time. So I like the switch up here to Tiamat. Has decent damage. Will be a bit more of a late game style of scaler for this composition.
Yeah, boring game style.
Not one. I mean, yeah, I guess you can call it a boring style, but it's a god that doesn't do a whole lot of damage early
Yeah.
until you, at the very least, get that first ability maxed out. When you're getting every single one of those primordial onslaught shots, goodness gracious, that is a
Put a
hard
beat
phrase
behind
for
that,
me
it
to
goes
have
insane.
said.
It goes double platinum.
It's a god that takes some time to get some scaling, needs a couple of items online. Similar to a god who I'm surprised we didn't see at all in our first set of the day, Freya. Hasten Fatalis is back, which means that Freya gets to run rampant. Now there are two build paths, at least two starting build paths that I've seen with Freya's. You either rush a ring into Fatalis into lifesteal, or you flip the lifesteal in the ring and you go lifesteal Fatalis ring. Either way, it makes Freya just so hard to lock down. She can just chase you infinitely whenever she has that Hasten Fatalis online. And is really the one item that has kind of kept this god in check. And in all the metas that we've had Freya, Haste has been the one thing that makes her that much better and is like that final little pin that needs to be put in order to kind of keep her at balance. Now that Hasten Fatalis is back in, there's really nothing holding this god back, especially because Hasten Fatalis gives flat penetration, gives you some extra HP, the movement speed, the attack speed. It's so many valuable stats.
And look at the dive she can follow behind too. The Cerberus, the Camazotz, the Kakulin, they're all going to be diving Team Costic in such a serious manner that the Freya can really get away with anything that she wants to do in those dives and can potentially go incredibly far through. And that's without even really touching on the laning phase, which, you know, Freya and Cerberus, pretty iconic dual lane, especially in the sense of the safety that Cerberus can bring for Freya to actually get some kills out early and get herself rolling a little bit faster. That final lock-in for Team Costic was Serket, who, that's a character that, alongside the Freya in my brain, I was kind of expecting to see a bit more of. Hasn't been touched in a while, in a decent spot, brings you a lot of movement, brings you control, and itemization-wise, you can build a little bit hybrid on her, still get insane crits, and still hit incredibly hard. And let's talk about one change too. Maybe could we see a fail knot on Serket?
Yeah, that is a new thing that has kind of popped up here, is the Erendite and Fail Not now being unlocked to all physical class. Let me clarify. Those two items to all physical classes now, not just restricted to what was the Erendite for your warrior assassins. Now the hunters can pick that up and vice versa. The Fail Not opened up to the other classes. I wouldn't be surprised if we did see that. You get a decent amount of pen, you get the cooldown along with it, you get that crit chance, and by using your ultimate, which is how you initiate a lot of your fights, get that extra little chance to get that marked crit for yourself. Serket was destroying people like day one of the 9-5 revert. I was watching people go, Jotun's Wrath, Deathbringer. And as soon as you taunt them back in, you taunt, you Deathbane, they're dead. You're hitting them for 800-900 damage in one immediate combo at that second item. Carry players hate it. I hate it. I don't like fighting against Serket. That god is insane, especially with what she can do now that everybody's health and protections are lower. This god is crazy. Now that the Fail Not is available to her, means that every stat, aside from like attack speed, that a Serket would want, she's getting. She's getting more crit. She's getting more cooldown. She's getting all of that extra power afforded to her. It is a dangerous item to really be able to give into the hands of the Serket, and that was kind of one of the things that was kind of talked about during the initial bounce of opening some of these items up, is that not everything is going to be seen immediately. You know, when something like this comes down, you don't know what's going to be really crazy until like 1,000+ players have gotten their hands on it and gotten a chance. You know, what gets kind of seen before is like, okay, you know, maybe 50 or 60 people didn't notice this. All it takes is that one person to find the crazy combination, and it opens up the floodgates to so many possibilities. So I'm going to keep a lot of eyes on the Serket. I think there's going to be a lot of eyes on the Fafnir as well with the change that came his way. But it's also got to make sure to keep this Freya in check. I think that is the perfect target for a Serket. All you need to do is juke out the whoop. If you can avoid the banish, you're having so much better of a time as Serket against Freya. Early levels, Freya is going to struggle. Until second item minimum is online for Freya, that god is going to struggle. I would camp that lane as hard as I can.
Camp the lane, kill the Freya, juke the whoop, you heard it, but let's go into game with Dulcin and Gormizer to see how it goes down.
Thank you very much, Dask. Into game one we go of Rudy versus Costic. Gore, both these teams self-described as ranked gremlins. I mean, look, set number one, we had, what, 40, 50 kills in either game. And I asked Rudy in the pregame interview, does this feel like it's been kind of a ranked gremlin tournament? And he said, yeah. So maybe both these teams right at home.
And you know what? I can agree with him to pretty much every extent. And this is kind of what we've seen. I mean, you can even go back into SPL. Like, a lot of what you would see is people testing things out. And until SPL finalized what was, quote-unquote, the meta, you didn't really have anything. Like, you didn't know what you were going to be doing in ranked. You've been on this patch for 5 days. No one's finalized any sort of meta, especially in ranked. You got to be careful when you're playing things early. But that is going to be something I expect both of these teams to really lean on, is the fact that, A, they've been playing together for a few months, but like Rudy said, like, community that's full of ranked grinders, right? So you know everybody on this team is doing a lot of that. Yesterday we went into their booths. They were playing against each other. They all queued ranked when we went in for interviews, so we were having to talk to them while they were playing.
This is probably the highest stakes ranked game. This squad of 10 players. Nice double whoop from Rudy. May have saved the life of his support. Remember Rudy talking about who's most likely to throw, but then also maybe most likely to carry. Rudy said himself, but then King Bop Bop Gore has been getting a lot of love from both teams, worth mentioning. Rudy used the beads. Also, Aegis maybe needed. Back it up as the Nuwa jump away for Valo, but still action to be had. No stun, but damage is there, and XD, first blood for Team Costic.
Yeah, I understand why Happen stuck around there, but it was just a little bit longer. Like, you were out in the mist. The minute that Valo gets that leap and has a longer disengage, you don't need to throw out your shiny metal. You don't need to step forward. You don't need to let them know you're still hanging around.
Man, this has just been relentless over in duo. Bop Bop steps forward. Is it the last thing he does? No, somehow lives. Goodness, 17 HP is what I saw. May have been a tick of HP 5 just before getting back to base. Gore, Team Costic has had the gas pedal down over on left. Has gotten all the pressure mounted over in the duo lane.
And again, maybe it makes sense when you think about it. These teams have been very close-knit, and a lot of NA was really close-knit. But like this team that is Costic, I like their comp to play aggressive. J-Mac had mentioned it on the desk, but like realistically, this Freya is going to be a problem in like 10 minutes.
Yeah, it takes a minute,
it's
right?
getting there, right?
Yeah.
Like, we got to see an era of Freya that didn't really have a terrible early game, and you know, when you hit level 3, you were kind of doing all right, but she really has always been this later game hyper carry. It's just that era of game, it used to be 20 minutes, now it's a little earlier, but this is not where Rudy wants to fight.
Why not? Send an invade over to Purple Buff. Whoop. On to Malachi, doesn't matter. Grave, first blood. It's been written on the wall for quite a minute now, but can it be 2? That's the question. Stuns there. A couple more autos. 1, got it. Double for Grave. Pre-game interview, Costic said Grave most likely to throw, but also most likely to carry. Maybe off to a carry start here in game number 1.
It feels pretty much spot on. Again, maybe for what you would expect, but also just for the way that they're playing. And unfortunately, it's... I mean, J-Mac wrote it on the in the skies when this pick was locked in for Rudy, which is just until your second item, we're probably not going to be seeing a lot out of you. And unfortunately, not only are Malachi and Grave like absolutely pushing that as far as they can, they well know where they can find those limits. I mean, picking you off in the jungle, like the second you're there as a Freya with half health, unfortunately for Rudy, there's not much you can do about it. It's not like you're known for your incredible leaps or fantastic capabilities of running away. No, Freya is known late game for killing you faster than you kill her. That's what she's capable of, and you're just not there yet, which means that if you get caught in the jungle like that, it's just over.
Valo makes his way to solo. Rundus. Dash away. Bat out of hell. Might have one more swoop. Sure does. Valo finally gets Team Rudy on the board. Karmic down to half HP, but Rundus down to 0. Needed that. Team Rudy did, but solo potential beads used by Happen. Needed. The knockup arrives all the same. Aegis is out, saves the damage, but the stun is still in. Bop Bop rotates right through now. Does XD get the knockup? Yes, but just shy on the damage. And I think that's a needed escape from Team Rudy. Keep that 1 kill over in solo where it is. Don't give anything back.
Not only that, I actually have to give a really big shout out to Happen's movement in that as well, because not a lot of people, you get through the Chesterfield, right? You get a little bit of a move speed buff, and immediately I'm starting to think, let's yeah, it's a great guy. You should go have some drinks with him. Chesterfield, you not met him?
I haven't. I don't know what's happened in the last year. What? Do we have a Chesterfield now?
Yeah, so when there's 2 Chesters, Dave.
Right. One
of them dies. There's like a little zone on the ground. You can run through it. It'll give you some move speed. That's the yellow one. If it's blue, he's got a shot. But you see he's moving a little faster now.
That sounds like a small metropolitan city in Indiana. Chesterfield. King Bop Bop about to die in Chesterfield. Costic Fourth on the board, another one for XD. Gore, the team out, both your carries off to 2-0 starts. Pretty much a dream start in the first 5.5 minutes.
Yeah, it is dangerous territory. And luckily, again, like for Happen, his movement gets the move speed, ran away, dodges that death the first time with help of King Bop Bop. Unfortunately, King Bop Bop was not in the position to fight elsewhere. And, you know, I'm not gonna say everything Rudy said, but did highlight in the interview, the pre-recorded interview, that the duo lane was most likely to feed, and both of them, I mean, they're 3 of the 4 deaths right now, so definitely I see where some of the pressure is going. And admittedly, again, it's their comp right now, and I'm really just watching to see what Team Khastik does with this lead, because you're 1,400 gold up. You've got a little bit of that translating into items. I see a lot of tier 3s, the Cannoneer's Curus, the Aussie already locked in on one side, so you're utilizing your lead in terms of the gold and what it's going to give you, as well as maybe opening up a lot of the itemization for you. But now that we're 6.5 minutes in and we're in a meta like this, what are you going to do with it after?
Malachi sent beneath the tier 1, but immediately transforms. Be able to leap away. Actually, Rudy needs to be careful here. Team Rudy does, because Rat Squid, what a name, over in duo lane on the Circuit. Maybe for Team Rudy, it's just buying your time. Get this Freya dialed up eventually. Valo has not spent much time over on left. Not when those purple buffs are coming back up. Seems like they're just saying, please survive for a little bit longer. And eventually we'll get there. In fact, Kamazot's over on right, but Runus makes his way back to base. Does not suffer the second death of the game. So maybe stabilizing is just the key here for Freya. It's only a matter of time right before some of those items dial in. Beads out, but Malachi detransforms. Grave back from base, sends a slow out towards Bop Bop, leaps away. Well, wouldn't you guess it? A stun, a killing spree for Grave, and another double kill just around the corner. Valkyrie's discretion, no matter, actually saved his life. The Maw doesn't connect with Rudy either. By the skin of his teeth, Rudy will live, and Happen actually sent out the new ultimate there, but nobody cleans up any of the kills on left. Rat Squid, maybe eyes bigger than a stomach, will not try the tier 1 dive.
Okay, he's backing now. I was really curious about Rudy there for a second, because I was like, first off, his health bar is incredibly low. I've been watching to see. I was like, if he just went back to base, why doesn't he not have his tier 3? Finally gets the upgrade, has a ring online. This is going to be the slow roll for him, and unfortunately, it's moments like that. I mean, sometimes Pop Pop's going to have to die for you to survive. Unfortunately, you're both at a 2-level deficit. You've got the same thing going in mid. You are really lacking on the left side of the map. And that means for Team Khastik, I really want to see them start to feint for a Gold Fury, right? Force a fight on the left side of the map where you've got this massive advantage in gold and in experience.
Yeah, 2 levels.
And try to get something going for you. Or, and much like Malachi seems to be fishing for, just go for some sort of invade. Go for some of these buffs. Strip away anything and everything you can take from Team Rudy while you have the opportunity. And that's, you know, you've got a ticking time bomb. You're going to hit 20 eventually. Freya is going to have some sort of fighting capability back eventually. So you just need to get on it while you have it.
This is a weird screen for me to look at, Gore. Look at us. Back on the back in front of the caster screen.
It's been so long.
I mean,
but we did it for so long too.
We did. I mean, you and I rewind back to the Paladins days. What was that, 2019?
Yeah. There was a certain point at in June where Pretty Hair sat us down and he's like, y'all are doing finals this year.
Yeah, right.
And we're like, okay. And
it
he's
was
like,
you and I.
no, so you're casting almost exclusively together for the rest of the year.
Everything for the. And you know who's most excited about this, Gore? Probably my parents. They are big Gore Miser, Dave.
We love that.
Cast fans.
We love to hear that.
And so they're probably thrilled with getting a little bit of this. We take a quick pause over in mid lane. I think it was XD who was about to get pulled back into a fight here. A lot of what we talked about, though, Gore, is just maybe Team Rudy trying to buy some time, right? Couple items on the Freya. Suddenly things start to maybe get back closer to even. But you were hitting on it. 2 levels down in support. 2 levels down in ADC. So maybe for Team Costic, it's let's put more pressure on left, see about a Gold Fury. And maybe what's happening over in mid is a chance for a fight.
Especially because you still have that wiggle room. Rudy just spent all of their gold. They have a tier 3 ring, and they are not near their Hasten Fatalis. They're not near a lot of the attack speed. They're not near a lot of the power spikes that make Freya the dominant force that Freya can be. And so you've got another window of like a couple minutes, 3-4 minutes before that item's going to come online, before that tier 3 is bought, that you really can again leverage as much as you want, whether that's jungle ganks, invades, but like just something. And as long as it's happening on the left side, yeah, it'd be nice to shut down solo. Yeah, you can go over there, but like that's an easy target. If the ult is down and the beads are down, which last I checked, I think beads were still on cooldown. Ult might be back by now.
Yeah.
But you can force those pretty easily. And Valkyrie's discretion, it's pretty good, but it's not like a bat out of hell. Bat out of hell gets you real far out of there. Valkyrie's discretion does not last long enough to have the same like full disengage. So like I want to see him grind it down.
Yep.
If that's going to be, if you want to run it down, that's the place to do it.
Yeah, it's like a hold on. It's not a pause button, right? Because everyone else gets to keep doing their thing while you're in Valkyrie's discretion. It's like I'm going to take a breather.
I'm falling back, or I'm shooting. One
right,
of the two.
And then maybe sometimes both, and then you drop back down, and the fight comes to you anyway. Because really, both junglers have sort of ignored that left side of the map, right? It feels like for Team Costic, they've been like, well, our duo lane's just
they're kind of bodying
They're
already.
doing fine anyway. I don't need to be over there. Let's just farm up on the rest of the map. Maybe the opposite for the opposite side, where it's like, well, now our duo lane's so far behind, I'm not even sure we can win a 2v2. So it's just about biding a little bit of time. But Gord, another high-paced game here, and maybe expected, as we mentioned, if we zoom out a little bit more.
Like the meta.
The ranked kind of mindset with these two teams, also the meta. Or what, 5, 6, 7 kills in through 5, 6, 7 minutes? I don't think it's slowing down.
No, and like it's so weird because like that's something when we were watching, open circuit games, SCC games, like that was kind of the pace that was getting set. But realistically, some of it's not even that. Some of it's, hey, we've, the balance over the last like couple of months, getting rid of specifically like the high time to kill that was introduced in 9.5, like that changed a lot of what you can accomplish early game, which is why a lot of these fights are happening. And it's also why I'm like pushing, normally 8 minutes in, I'd say Gold Fury, and I'd be like, we'll see it in like 5-10 minutes. Like, if we're lucky, we'll see it that soon. Whereas now it's like, no, 8 minutes in, like, y'all go for it. Like, you've got items online. Some of them are cheaper. You've got a lot of kills, and that's giving you some pressure. Like, let's see what you can do to try and extend that and push it as far as it can. And that's where Team Costic is.
Right.
And then luckily for Team Rudy, you're still going to hit 20 minutes probably, right? Like, unless things go really catastrophic in the next 5, you're still going to hit 20, which means you're still going to see Freya hit the late game.
Yep.
You're still going to have some, opportunities with the Cerberus. The Nuwa I'm a little shaky on. I like Nuwa. I actually really love playing Nuwa. It's just when she's good and when she's not. She's got some good burst. She's got good ult. But sometimes she's, well, as we've seen, pretty easy to just walk up to and kill.
And it was indeed XD who's about to get pulled back. But this teammate we're talking about, an A gets to jump away. Maybe you're safe. Unless Valo wants to go for the tower. I just don't think there's enough damage on this teammate, but Valo does. The stun connects XD. Yep, you're bad out of hell. I'm wrong. These players are right. I'm rusty. They're not. Team Rudy. Second kill on the board, but it's immediately answered back. Rat Squid, both junglers.
Man.
Right on it, over in mid lane. They go 1 for 1, and it's Bop Bop dead for the 4th time this game, but the fighting continues, Gord. Double kill for the Circuit.
Valo should be fine. That should is coming with a pretty heavy asterisk. It feels like everybody that should be fine sometimes goes back in, maybe bites off more than they can chew. But that's just good kills, right? I think being able to recognize, hey, XD's in trouble. We got to get to the Tiamat. We got to make sure things don't go out of hand in mid. And then for Rat Squid to recognize the opportunity as a Circuit, you need to capitalize on things like that. They're at your tower line? Yes, you're going to grab them with your ult and throw them in. You're going to get true damage plus the tower shots. Maybe one of the easiest setups that you could have for a kill. And then, unfortunately for Team Rudy, you're just a little too far the rest of the time, right? You are stepped up to the tower line. There's a lot of room in mid for them to rotate in, and rotate they do. And Team Costic not only extends that lead, but again, you really feel it in a lot of these levels. Soon you're going to be feeling it in relic choices, right? I'm seeing level 12 for Grave, level 12 for XD. You're going to have, whether it's like an Aegis, a Beads, whatever they end up getting second, some extra utility that is going to enable the team to make a little more risky plays without having to worry about the risks on the other side. And then, of course, for Malachi, pretty soon, now level 10, you're going to have a full utility for your support that King Bopop's going to have to wait a little while to get to.
Yep. This is really what I expected from Grave, I think. Especially, I've casted a lot of Grave games over the year. Years.
Over the year.
The
Just
one-
the one.
I haven't actually over the last year casted many Grave
The
games.
opposite. Yeah, you haven't cast any Grave games over
No,
the last year.
I've casted Grave for a little while, and Grave always striked me as the carry. I was through the jungle though, but apparently not much changes when you stick Grave over an ADC. Charybdis has this potential 3 kills, 3-level lead. And now Team Costic answering the call that Goremizer set down. It's a Gold Fury pull, and probably smart here, Gore, from Team Rudy. You're actually only down 1,200 gold. It's going to be a little bit worse here after this Gold Fury. I'm not sure that's a winning fight, but and Rudy's still up far beyond the purple buff. You're really playing with fire. Blink forward from Rat Squid. Valkyrie's discretion will save Rudy's life, and there is a rotation back through from Team Rudy here. They got to be careful.
I was going to say
Right,
I'd
well.
call it a win to begin with, but this is even further beyond what they needed. Kill on to King Bob Bob. And again, so better going to Rat Squid. 3-0-2 now for the Sircat. But on top of that, you just got beads and ult from Rudy. This is such a free left side of the map, but now that Tier 1's gone, it's this weird zone that you've entered.
Can't go too far, yeah.
Because you've already got the Fury, you got the Tier 1. Are you really going to push for like a 12, 13-minute Tier 2? The buffs are yours if you want them for Team Costic, and they will take as many as they want. But realistically, you might have done the final boss, quote-unquote, on the left side of the map at this point for a little while. Until that Tier 2 becomes an option, you're just going to be bullying Rudy, which is not a bad idea. Bullying Freya is always going to be something I can get on board with. But in reality, there's not a whole lot of opportunity over there. Meanwhile, you're going to be talking about Fire Giant soon, Pyromancer soon, a lot going on the right side of the map.
Feels like Malachi can just do no wrong. 6 of 8 kills affected by this Fafnir. All it's going to take, yeah, a hammer. This one connects onto Bop Bop. Still a bit squishy on this Cerberus. XD push back. Can't join the fight just yet, but a little space created by his front line. One more jump in from Malachi. Burns away. Thorns used by Bop Bop. No Cerberus ultimate, but wow, it's Malachi. D-transforms, but able to jump away. The roots follow up from Team Rudy. Messy fight, but it's Team Costic getting the reinforcements over from Duo despite first blood from Team Rudy. Rundus has more gas in the tank. Grave arrives, and Grave swinging away another double kill. Maybe the 3rd of this game. Maybe one more around the corner here as well. Valkyrie's discretion wears out. 1 out of 3-piece for Grave. And 1 bit of damage away from a deicide. Costic have blown the doors off game 1.
That so much goes right and wrong for honestly a little bit on both sides, but realistically Costic just gets everything that they need. Malachi does a great job. It's the worst time to de-transform because you're surrounded. It feels like things are going to be bad, but like you said, he gets the leap off. That forces a dive. Valo goes in, uses the bat out of hell to get the kill, and then is left kind of stranded in no man's land under a tier 1 in mid. Luckily for him, at the time at least, XD did not have the damage to get the full kill, but the rest of the team was trying to chase as well, right? They went after the initial pull, look at Malachi, let's get Malachi. And now they're all standing right up there. You can see the Camazot's pools right next to where the Tier 1 is. And that's when the loop around really starts to come true. And luckily, you've got Grave, a lot of damage. Rat Squid, a lot of control in CC. And we haven't talked a lot about the solo laners, but King Arthur has just been insane the last few days. He has been controlling, he is dominant. And once he got involved, it just opened up the doors.
I've seen this story before.
Oh.
No Valkyrie's discretion for Rudy.
Yo, but one more item, though? And it's over for
Yeah,
those guys.
Hasten Fatalis is there. I mean, we've arrived, have we not? No, we're a bit far away. Now 5 levels down is Rudy.
Yeah, that also helped a little bit in that last fight.
Gotta have this one if you're Team Rudy. You're putting a lot of effort towards killing off Rundus. Not only are you maybe not going to get this kill onto King Arthur, but you have lost King Bop Bop over on the left. Rundus will die. It'll take a minute, but it's bot time for Malachi to transfer over to the right side of the map. Karmic and Valo backpedaling, but a rotation through from Team Costic, just waiting for that last bit of initiation. We tower diving? I would think yes, but no, we're not. Instead, we might just look for damage, or maybe go back for some of the neutral objectives.
I mean, Fire's walking in, but there's no way. I was going to say, that would be brave. I think you're in a spot where you could try, but that would be brave as a call. I much prefer this. Go for the Pyro, and then just
That'll be a
beat up
kill.
a new Wa in mid. Grave is absolutely ridiculous. And, I mean, the game said it better than I can. Just unstoppable. 7-0 and 1. Like, keeping up with this carry, who is 5 levels up on your own. Rudy just does not exist right now. I like the way that Rudy is playing. You need to farm. You need something, because otherwise you're just kind of conceding the game based on your level alone. So you have to commit to something like this, just going to left. I wouldn't even mind maybe even seeing a lane swap. Go over to right where you have a tier 1, try to hide, be a little closer to the action, hope you can get some stuff online. But just get farm wherever you can find it. Try to get this third item online, get to a late game state just before, you know, Team Costic can run it down and really find their control. Meanwhile, if you're, you know, you're Grave, if you're Rat Squid, no notes. I mean, they've been doing their job.
I dare you to give a note to Grave right now.
Hit more ults.
Yeah, he hasn't had to use his ult.
The one that I saw him absolutely nail was amazing.
Unlucky for Bop Bop. Double ult. Oh, jump away, but here's Rat Squid. Goodbye, Bop Bop, and hello, Fury. Team Costic is already here. They're ready, and a Primal Fury will be their prize, as well as the 8th kill of the game onto King Bop Bop. Remember, that's what Costic, the coach of Team Costic, was saying. I said, who are your eyes on? He said, oh, I'm looking for Bop Bop, and did the, you know what you call it, like pointing at your eyes, pointing at the camera thing. I don't know if that gesture has it. Yeah, I'm watching you. They have been. They've been real dialed in. Team Costic has on the Rudy, Team Rudy support. King Bop Bop falls to 0-8. I'd caught up a little bit in experience, but not tanky enough just yet. Bottom of the net worth charts. And Gore, what's not great is Nuwa and Freya right behind that, so your support and 2 carries are the least valuable by gold in this game.
I will say, and I have to give a shout out to Rudy, set very realistic expectations for his team.
That's right.
It was asked who's most likely to feed, said it's going to be the duo, and nailed that one on the head. It's an unfortunate spot to be in, though, again, because I think part of it is, I mean, there might be a little bit of player diff. We'd have to see it and run it back, but realistically, a lot of this was comp diff. At the very beginning, Freya just could not fight back what the Charybdis was going to be putting on the table, and now you've got some of those items, you got some of that damage, but you're so far down in levels, I don't know if this is a fight you won.
Rat Squid doesn't have any mana, and Rudy has his jungler. And so, Rat Squid, maybe a rare death here for Team Costic, sure is, but it took 2.25. I'm not sure what Bop Bop did there. I don't know if they needed him, but gets an assist nonetheless, but yeah, not great over in mid lane. Beads used once again. XD takes a tower shot, but the Aegis was still burning. And Malachi burns down happen. Tier 1 drops off as well. Now it's just about not getting sloppy. Things like this aren't necessarily going to lose you a game. Double stun from Grave, but needed those cooldowns back a little bit quicker. You're not going to lose the game off a play like that, but it's those individual plays that if they happen again and again and again, that's how Team Rudy gets back.
Yeah, I think more importantly, and unfortunately for Malachi, no, the ult's not going to connect, so they're just going to go for Beacon here. Those, normally I'd just be like, you just got a couple kills, it's not the end of the world for Team Costic. Those were both shutdown kills. Those were actually both big shutdown kills. And you can see a little bit in the experience. It would have been nice, I think, for Rudy to be able to get one because Rudy didn't get a kill, but like gold goes your way as well. Those were actually really, really helpful in terms of giving you a lot on the map. You have time on board that they're not farming, time on board that you're able to catch up finally in some of that farm, plus the shutdown bounties themselves. You close up the gap a little bit. Still 5 levels between the carries, but there's only so much you can do about it. You're finishing items. That's what I really need to see, because like now Rudy, we just saw, I mean, against Rat Squid, admittedly with no mana, but a level 14 Rudy with not even a full tier 3 there for the Telkine's ring, was able to deal a lot of damage to Rat Squid on their own. Admittedly, with mana, maybe there's a different conversation, but now you've got that full tier 3. Now you've got a little bit, or a step closer at least, to Rat Squid in level. You've got a little closer to being able to do what you need to do for your team.
Pyromancer's the prize over on right. I was wondering if Team Costic was feeling up to a Fire Giant. They are. Team Rudy have some idea that this is going on. Karmic into the Fire Giant pit. Eyes all for Grave, but damage might just turn around on the Karmic. 4-man knock-up in the FG pit. Really good initiation from Team Rudy, but is there follow-up? There sure is. XD pulled back. Valo the first, but now Grave can swing. Assists on the first kill, but the chase down there on the rest. Oh, he has to go into the water. Valo, bat out of hell, has found the backline. That's what you want your Camazot's doing, but look at the peel from Team Costic. Has kept their carry in it. And the dominoes may still fall here for Team Rudy, despite a decent-looking fight. Though Happen still full HP. Far from clean for Team Costic. They have the kill advantage, but health just melting.
Luckily, they were able to disengage from Rudy. You know, again, this Freya does not look too fantastic. You see it's 0-3-2. You're still down in levels. Got 2 levels from that fight alone. First off, was 14, now 17. So 3 levels from that fight. As well as being able to pick up a lot. One of those autos connects. You get your haste proc, and you're able to start chasing because of your haste and fatalis. It's over. With those low health bars, you're talking about a triple kill for Rudy in the blink of an eye. So needing that disengage for Team Costic at the time and really making sure to pump the brakes, I think, a little bit. Despite the fact that they were looking really solid, it kind of showcased something that we've seen in some teams where if the call is Fire Giant, make the call for Fire Giant, but be willing to drop it, and be willing to drop it fast the minute you start to see some resistance. Because while there's a 5v5 with this kind of team, I might actually lean towards a new WA Soldier explosion as the biggest burst to secure something. Go get Happen, go get Rudy, go shut them down, then recommit to FG. Instead, Khastik were kind of half and half, and unfortunately it gave Rudy the positioning they needed.
That was a big fight there for Karmic as well. I'm thinking to a lot of the solo lane fights we've seen.
Yeah.
You've seen 2 3-man knockups a couple times over in the solo lane when Karmic's trying to get away. He's only died once this game in a sea of deaths that Team Costic has. Or kills, rather, that Team Costic has. But the 4-man knockup in the FG pit, big for Karmic there. This Kokullen, top player damage in the game, gonna be tough to deal with. Early ultimate out of Happen. That means less disengage in this fight. And it's an engage onto the Kokullen. My goodness, just absolutely melts.
That's on you.
Team
You cursed
Costic,
that
I know,
guy.
that's my fault. My fault entirely. Double kill for the solo lane opponent. Rundis, 2 now in the fight. But Rudy's starting to dial up a bit. But still some chase in Team Costic's tank. Happen left running, both carries. Not much disengage left. Beads 5 seconds away. Rudy won't need him. 2-for-1 trade. Maybe headed back to FG.
Without Grave, you still have
You're right.
damage, but I don't know
That's bad on
if
me.
it's as open for him. Well, it's just like, I like the idea of walking back to the FG. You might be able to, I mean, Rat Squid's going to do a nasty amount of damage right now, but the last couple of items, actually, realistically, the last 3 items, nothing that's leaning as heavily into, I'm going to kill objectives, more as, I'm going to be able to survive and I'm Serket, let's have fun. And so, 10 seconds, Gray's going to be here. I like the way they immediately play on the right side of the map. Wish we had a little more vision from Team Costic. That's something that's lacking. I see a lot of wards dropped down from Team Rudy, and even more in pocket right now. Meanwhile, you got 2 runic bombs. You're feeling pretty good if you're Team Costic as far as like a siege could possibly go. I'm still just worried for him because while all that was going on, Rudy went from like 5 to 6 levels down to 1 level down.
Yeah, you can only hit 20 once.
And
I've always said.
has since got 2 more full items since we really got to see Rudy in a fight. I think we're about to see a much more powerful Freya than Team Costic has been dealing with. The last time, you know, we got to see him zoned out, but right now Rudy almost has ult back up, has beads, has Aegis, has a power pot, and a Raven ward. You are pretty well covered in terms of safety for yourself, whether it's vision, whether it's kill him dead, or some disengage. And so I'm not saying they've got it at this point because they still have a lot of factors going against them. But the Team Rudy that we're going to see around this next FG fight, as long as they get off this ward that they're dancing on, is going to be a very different Team Rudy than we've really seen for the last 24 minutes. And it's all because they actually have a carry now.
There's the one fight in mid, like 10 minutes ago, where Team Rudy just got blown off the map. It's only been 1 or 2 kills difference from that point on. Still big advantage to Team Costic, of course. I'm thinking back to that first FG kind of consideration. The 4-man knockup from Karmic obviously does a lot in keeping Team Rudy in that fight. But a lot of dive onto Grave in that fight, I remember. It was very back foot oriented from the Charybdis, which is something we've always talked about with Charybdis. Very safe pick.
Yep.
Lots of utility in keeping yourself alive. So not only Aegis, not only beads, not only ultimate, but you can head underwater as well. Plenty of shred, though, with Grave still on the map. And Team Rudy, you got to hover over here on right. Watch out, though. Rat Squid, bit of a split push over on left. Gonna send that wave on in, but it's answered by Karmic. Karmic does have teleport, whereas Rat Squid does not, so it could be an odd-numbered fight for Team Rudy. Won't be able to defend this tier 2 tower, so an exposed Phoenix over on left. A half commitment from Team Costic onto the FG, just trying to bait Team Rudy forward. Team Rudy ever patient.
And again, I love the call for Karmic to be the one to go over, although Serket's mobile.
Wow.
But they're diving Grave.
Oh, Grave gets some peel from his solo laner. Bat out of hell from Valo. Met with the Maw. The Maw never goes off. Karmic starts the fight, but trades out his life for it. Rest of Costic rallying around one another. Your carry, the big damage is off the map, and maybe now's the time for Rudy. But he's got to fight with Rat Squid first. Serket having to back away as well. Suddenly, Team Rudy from the brink have flipped around a fight. Valo's dead, but it's still a 2-for-1 trade. Karmic low, Malachi stunned, but the damage not there on the follow-up. D-transform for Malachi, but Bop-Bop's got to be careful because XD's got some damage from over the wall. For the first time, I think, all game, Gore, Team Rudy wins a fight.
And again, it comes over. Look, 1, 3, and 4, you get an assist out of that. Freya's damage numbers popped off in those moments. And I also have to give the shout out because Valo loses their life. It's Valo's dive that really enables that. You were talking about, hey, you got to get to the Charybdis, and Charybdis is so hard to stick to. But you wait out the Aegis. You wait out a Whirlpool. You bat out of Hell and get a couple of swipes.
Yep.
And then Grave is just low enough, but if you don't stick to Grave, they have a carry that's alive that's hitting everyone on your team way too hard. Instead, Valo's like, I'm going to die for this, but I'm going to get like our primary target. I'm going to get Grave off the board. And then suddenly happen, Rudy, Karmic, and King Bop-Bop, whether it's for squishy, I can only take a couple hits reasons, or it's this guy's got a ridiculous pin build and is absolutely shredding every single prod item I have. No matter what, now that Grave's off the board, you can jump in, you can survive a little bit longer, you can cause some disruption, and it splits the fight 2 and 2. Team Costic's not really all together on it. And while it doesn't look too great, I mean, I'm still looking at a 1-3, a 1-10, a 1-5. The kills that Team Rudy get are very important for them. And again, just dismantle the important portions of Team Costic. And it just slows them down. But slowing them down right now means you get to spend some time catching up.
XD there on the Tiamat as well, nearly full build. And the carries for Team Rudy have just had a brutal game, as we've talked about from essentially minute 1. Started over in duo, shuffled over towards mid eventually. I'm still looking at Karmic. This Cullen has impressed me ever since a 4-man knockup around FG just a few moments ago. Really, I think Team Rudy now, they may be feeling a bit more confident to not only step up after a Fire Giant, but maybe dance around here with Team Costic, not give anything over for free. Still a tower and really open Phoenix advantage to Team Costic over on left if you want to send someone there to split push, but right now looks like all 4 members of Team Blue are not only going to be on FG, but actually the more aggressive in their positioning.
And I like this, not only because the fights have been going well for them, but I mean, you've got not as much to fear anymore, right? Level advantage has completely disappeared.
Fear itself. You always have to fear.
You always have to fear itself. That thing's scary. But when it comes to Team Costic, none of those guys are as scary now as they could be.
Karmic is living in the backline, nearly solos Grave, but both carries for Team Costic. Eyes on the Cullen, but regardless, Grave has to leave. Happen has used the ultimate, but did not connect onto the Charybdis, still underwater. Karmic, though, battling it out. Valo's now here to help. A bat out of hell, maybe around the corner, doesn't need it. It's a kill onto XD. Rundus left alone, stunned, pulled all of it, top to bottom. Finally, Rudy. A second kill in this game, just shy of 30 minutes in. And again, it's Team Rudy with a 2-0 fight. A moment ago, they lost 1, but now it's a clean 2-0.
It's Karmic. I mean, realistically, like, Rudy might get something crazy done here. Depends on cooldowns once you land. But in a 1v1, Freya,
nice whoop.
Freya really likes 1v1.
Rat Squid needs
Rat
this kill.
Squid needs to be careful right now.
Rat Squid used everything for this fight. Rudy flips it around. Rudy also used everything. No more relics on the Freya. No more Valkyrie's discretion. Whoop down for a couple more seconds. Positioning key for Rudy, but there's not really going to be a whole fight. There's still 2 members of Team Costic dead for the next 15 seconds against all odds, Goremizer. At the 30-minute mark, Team Rudy are going to pull FG. Malachi whooped. Still maybe a stun, but that hammer's got to travel through a lot of bodies. And no, you got to be kidding me. Team Rudy not only pull, but secure the first Fire Giant. Small stun on the back end, and Malachi is gonna lose his life for this one as well. Bad to worse for Team Costic. Graves still on the map though, Gore, so maybe still a fight to be had.
Graves done a great job staying alive over the last like 30 seconds. They've really been trying to get this Cryptus. And that's going to be helpful, at least in terms of defense. But you have to be looking in terms of defense, although they might be looking for an offensive defense here. Rundus, with this kind of positioning, Ratsquid, they're trying to get Grave back in here. They want to go for a fight.
35 seconds on Malachi. I mean, this is a 5v4, but Bop low.
Yeah.
Sustaining up just a bit. I actually totally missed it. I'm trying to do math. I mean, this is enhanced FG, I think, right?
It came up right after. You can see the blue in the belt.
Right, I'm trying to do my math and check my eyes here for a minute. So a little extra sustain then for Team Rudy. Don't mind it from Team Costic. Now you got to be scratching your head a bit. How did we get here? Maybe we didn't push our advantage enough somehow if we're Team Costic. 13-23, Team Rudy have the momentum in this game, and despite being 6K down, they've got a chance to really knock down some towers, something they have not been able to do, Team Rudy, for the first 30 minutes of the game.
There's a lot of things that, you know, they might, again, like you said, scratching their head trying to figure out. You can't always predict Karmic walking into your backline, almost soloing one of you, pretty much soloing another one. Like, Karmic had such a massive impact in that fight. And you were talking about it before, you know, when we've seen, you know, 3-man, 4-man ultimate knockups. But that was even further beyond that. That wasn't just set up for the team to come in and do damage. That was Karmic putting in the work and then the rest of the team kind of reaping the benefit. You get 2 people incredibly low and zoned, and a third that was full health but just trying to keep the others alive. And it's just Karmic who's fighting him while everybody else gets to sit on FG. That opens up so much. I mean, that's a massive opportunity. Only Malachi could be in the FG pit.
And maybe Ratsquid's got to find the backline. Suddenly I'm more scared of Rudy than I am Grave, which is, again, not something I've been able to say for the first 20, 30 minutes of this game. Good opportunity, though. Ratsquid may send Karmic back towards Team Costic. A whoop from Rudy. Maybe it saved a solo laner's life, but Karmic can't participate in this fight. Not anymore. Ratsquid is still on the chase. But it's XD who's being melted away. King Bop over the wall, followed by his jungler. Bat out of hell, chips away just a bit more damage. The opening for Rudy is there, and watch how Team Rudy rally around their Freya. And they'll knock down, Team Rudy will, the first Phoenix of the game. Now only down 9 kills.
Not only that, and this is going to be, again, just laying praise on Karmic. Karmic pulled Ratsquid away.
Yep.
You were low, you walked through a tier 2, it was kind of questionable, are you going to make it out of here? They go on a little bit of a roundabout way just to get back to the fight, but while that's going on, you lose a person on Team Costic, and now suddenly Ratsquid's in a bad spot. He's in a bad position, can't do too much, and even going against Karmic right now, I don't know if they're in a spot to get the things done that a Circuit needs to get done.
Costic's got to be careful here. This is that area where you lose 1 or 2 team members, and suddenly you've lost the game. Unlucky, or maybe calculated. Costic with the assistance of the Phoenix. Drop 1 more shot into King Bop. That's effectively going to seal this defense for Team Costic. And Karmic this time won't have the support of his team immediately, but this Kokolin can live for a while. Karmic's going to die, but the rest of Team Rudy is rallied around the corner. Malachi, double kill. Grave from the brink has flipped this game around. Valo dies as well, and is there enough damage, is there enough tankiness score on the map for Team Costic to walk down mid?
You've got the Phoenixes already exposed.
Well, yeah, it's Bop is up in 25 seconds.
Yeah, you've got so much time.
It's a game.
You've got so much time.
Unreal. Team Rudy bait all of us, and Team Costic, look, I don't know, man. Yeah, Team Costic are going to win. The scoreboard is going to show a convincing Team Costic victory. This is anything but convincing in the middle portion. Beginning and end is all Team Costic, though, and I think that's all Team Costic care about. It's Team Costic, if you're just tuning in. Team Costic are the ones who take game 1.
They play, again, and like you said, really clean. They're the moments where things go wrong it's separation, and very importantly, it's dive onto Grave. The longer Grave was able to survive, the longer Grave was able to continue getting autos out there, the better it was for him. That Freya, though, the turnaround, I'm really excited to look at the post-game stats when they come up, because I want to see what the damage numbers were for Team Rudy at the very end, for Rudy specifically. Yeah, because like realistically, it was like a flat line with maybe like a bump or two for like in the actual lane that just went whoop towards the very end. Like you hit that third item and you can see when it starts to scale up. Again, really well done in terms of keeping that game going, because realistically at 24 minutes, y'all were out of that game. The fact that you drug it out another 14, you got an enhanced Fire Giant, it's really just that one unfortunate like King Bop Bop death in mid that then rolls into a kind of barrel roll from Costic. Like, it is so just the dominoes falling at the very end for him. Otherwise, that game, it really did feel like it was going to be in Rudy's court.
It does feel like a ranked game, right? We drew a lot of parallels
we got there,
early.
some guy died, and now my team's losing.
And now my team has suddenly lost the game. I'm feeling good. I'm going to rank up after this game, and then my support dies to Phoenix. My solo laner sticks around, and out of nowhere, we've lost. Look, Costic, you clean up the middle game portion there, and this game is over 10 minutes ago. This is a fun one between Team Rudy and Team Costic. Game 1 to Costic. Game 2, it's up in the air, and it's coming up next.
I'm Grave.
I'm Khastik. I'm the content creator.
I'm Malachi. I play support for Team Costic.
I'm XD001. I play mid for Team Costic.
I'm Ratswood. I'm the jungler for Team Khastik.
And I'm Rundus. I play a soul lane for Team Costic.
We've pretty much all played together and hung out with each other at Season 10 play-ins. And we've just been friends and talked pretty much every day, so we figured it'd be just a good team to put together.
I'm a longtime Costic viewer. That's how I ended up on the team. I watch a lot of Costic.
Oh, yeah.
I've been subbed to Costic for months.
I'm
a big fan, so that's why I'm here.
Is he the best streamer in the SMITE directory?
No, that would be Weekend. Costic is a close second.
Oh,
Me.
Not even close.
Dashboard.
Grave Mine ADC.
They said the best, not the worst grade.
We like to bully Grave a lot because he's kind of a punching bag of our team. That's kind of how the vibes go. But no, we're all chill with each other. We're all good friends.
Yeah, a lot of it is just having fun.
Yeah.
Just enjoying the time we're playing. So.
A bunch of friends just playing Smite.
They should speak for themselves. I actually don't like any of them. Just gotta make that clear. Grave. Grave for sure.
Have we ever watched Ratspin play Thor, dude? Like, are you kidding me?
100% Grave.
It's Grave.
Speaking of Grave, you just first blooded.
Listen, you guys are putting me on the spot. I'm getting camped.
You just fed him a ranking too. You stink.
Oh, okay. All right.
Does that throw all your prep out the window?
Yeah. As you know, the EU region is just way better than NA, so I'm pretty sure we're just screwed.
I'm glad you admitted that. I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah.
EU is just better than us, but we'll do our best.
That's crazy. That's what the EU guys said too.
Immortals have invaded my realm, and my children rebel against me. Dark days these are. But my strength shall bring resolution, and my lightning, illumination! Zeus!
Bologna.
Anubis.
Sarah. Kukulkan.
Surtur.
Hello and welcome on back into more SMITE Content Creator Cup. This weekend has been a fun one to say the least, but J-Mac, we're back in. We got more games to go. Game number 1 was a wild end, and it turned out we were expecting it to be a bit of the Freya show, but it was the Charybdis show. But as you saw before we got in, those Starforge PCs, they're gorgeous, so make sure you check them out. Best PCs you can find, and the one in studio I've been staring at like a kid in a candy store. So make sure you check those out, starforgesystems.com/product/smite. Check those out now. J-Mac, how are we feeling after game 1? We were watching it. You and I were very involved in both the builds, the positioning. There wasn't much we missed watching it back there.
No, this was a very early game dominant team for Khastik, which is to be expected given what the dual lane was for Team Rudy. Once we saw the mid to late game come online, that's when we saw Team Rudy get that fight back. Their Freya's getting online, getting their damage to Cerberus, even though dying multiple times in the early game for King Bop Bop doesn't help your early game. Once you get to late game, you're still a tank. You're still going to have your itemization. But this one just came down to one bad team fight more than anything because for a while, Team Rudy was fighting it on the back foot. They were sitting there waiting for their opportunity. And they were finally able to claw back in, and they stick around just a little bit too long at the end of the game and make one too many mistakes in the final team fight, and that's what ends up kind of costing them there. So Team Costic, if they can just keep on the gas pedal throughout the mid game, throughout the late game, they can make their finish a little bit cleaner. Because as I said, the early game was fantastic. They did exactly what they need. They killed the Cerberus, they killed the Freya, lather, rinse, repeat. Just keep doing that. The target this time was King Bop-Up. I would have liked to see more focus on Rudy on the Freya, because that god is not great until she gets at least 2 to 3 items online. Cerberus is just going to be a tank late game, and that's what happens when we get to 35, 36 minutes and everybody's hitting 20, everybody's getting 5, 6 items online. Is at the end, it's just a Cerberus. Making his life a little bit hard in the early game certainly helped Team Khastik, but I think that dealing with the Freya a bit more, getting some more pressure that way would have helped. I think that Grave did fantastic on the Charybdis throughout almost the entirety of that game. Only a couple of moments where it was maybe a little bit questionable on decision or play. A missed ultimate here or there, not the end of the world. In fact, had a really nice triple kill. I think that's what this highlight play is here in the mid lane on the team fight. That really, for my money's worth, I felt that this was like the catapult leap forward that Team Costic had to just completely take control of this game. But the discipline on Team Rudy, the communications for their squads, just make sure that they stay calm, stay collected, even under pressure, isn't going to get the worst end of them. And this is a pick that I expected to go even crazier than it did. I mean, Ratsquid did absolutely fine on the Circuit. Really no notes there. Went for the more tank style of route, just trusting the inherent damage in her kit, the true damage from the ultimate as well, just to make sure and guarantee just how well that Circuit can do. Maybe a little more damage would have helped when you get to the late game. The tankiness certainly makes sure that you stay alive for a lot longer, but needing just a little bit of extra burst probably could have helped out. But again, this is a team that's hard to give too many notes for Team Costic. I mean, 8-2 on the Circuit, 8-3 for Grave. Just a great start of this game for Team Costic. Maybe a little rough to kind of start things out in the solo lane, at least for Rundus on the King Arthur, but hard to complain about a King Arthur who's doing 26k and mitigating 51 at that point. So I think more than anything for Team Rudy, the early game is where it needs cleaned up on their end. Team Costic, probably the mid game is where I would put a couple extra notes for them.
I'm on board with that. And a big thing for me, too, I want to go back and talk even more about Grave. Because Grave was somebody that we heard the coach, the captain, be like, you know, he's kind of got it. I saw Costic back there stretching, had a bowl of food. Oh, yeah, you know, Grave's got it. I could be playing ADC, but I got it instead. I mean, that speaks volumes to me, and it pulled through. So now, the position you're in, what you've locked in as Team Costic for me, I feel like you've got to run with it a bit more. You now have, in my brain, more control over the picks and bans as we do head into that for game number 2. Make that control matter. Determine the picks. You've gotten yourself second pick here, so Team Rudy can drive it at first, but I feel like so far today we've seen the second selection, grabbing up those 2 characters, determine a lot of how these drafts have gone, which usually it's kind of, you know, the first pick or bust, but here I'm like in the 2 slot, and I'm sure Khastik isn't complaining either.
Yeah, the wax and wane of kind of the first pick versus second pick has been a story throughout SMITE's career, where at one point it was, we need first pick because we need to get the best, like, solo lane god or jungle god, and then it doesn't matter what the rest we have, we're going to win. Then there's other instances where, well, now we get 2 of the best, like, 3 picks that are going to be left over after the ban. So getting first versus second pick all just kind of depends on the mentality of the teams and the state of the meta itself. When a lot of things are really good compared to a couple of things, that second pick gets a lot more value. But when there's only like 1 or 2 things that are really good, kind of must-wins, having that first pick is so valuable, especially if it's things that are in the same role. If you get to a situation where, for example, let's say your first pick and there's a Chang'e and an Ixchel both available to play. Not in this one because they've both been banned just like last game, same bans and same first pick. Having that first pick gives you so much extra value. You can say, this is what I believe is the better pick, and whatever you get after doesn't matter. But in a current situation, in current state of SMITE in the meta right now, this second pick to me is so much more valuable because this Charybdis is one of the most dominant hunters on the map. Fafnir showed exactly how good Fafnir can be late game. Once you get that dragon form to 60 seconds, that course cooldown buff that he received is so potent. And there were a couple of good moments there for Malachi. Some moments in SMITE are hard to really quantify because they just happen to you.
Right.
There was a moment where Malachi got a transformation, and as he's transforming, a damage procs Mantle of Discord, and he stuns 4 or 5 people in it.
That timed
that's
so
not,
well.
That's not something you can physically just time and say, look what I did. That's just a, oh, look what happened around me kind of moment. But it's moments like that where you could see potential turnarounds. Unfortunately for Malachi, there was no one there to help him out. He was just stuck there, barely got the time back for his ultimate, and gets the proc to try and live through there. But picks like Fafnir, like Charybdis, you're going to shred through objectives, you're going to shred through enemy teams. I much prefer this Charybdis build that we saw out of Grave than what we saw in the previous set.
I'm right there with you.
Because while Fatalis is a good item, you get great stats from it, you get attack speed, movement speed, health, flat pen, and the haste effect, I think that the Odysseus bow gives so much more value in a team fight comparatively, where Hasten is a great 1v1 style of pick. When you get to a team fight, you're going to get so much more damage and value out of something like Odysseus bow.
The proof is in the replays for that Charybdis in game number 1. I'm right there with you. That is the best version of that build we've seen so far, just in terms of how it looked in fights. It plain looked good for the Charybdis. There is a Nuwa run back, which, you know, you and I were talking, the Nuwa, we didn't hate it, we didn't love it. I was kind of taking you through some of my own personal experiences of watching happen and knowing that God pool, and I feel like you didn't need to lock into the comfort of Nuwa if that's what it is, but there is a conversation to be had of while the Nuwa never felt incredibly impactful, the damage was still high, and there were some team fights where we saw missed abilities. A lot of the time that Shining Metal was going wide right, where if it had hit, that damage could have been even higher, and who knows how some of those fights could have gone down.
Nuwa does get a little bit of a, we'll call it a crutch pass, just because you have the minions, where if you miss Shining Metal directly, it's not the end of the world so long as you can clip a minion, but that is where the brunt of her damage does come from the team fight. A low cooldown on that ability means that you can spam it really heavily late game, especially if you build into a lot of cooldown. But we do have one single adjustment so far in our top 6 picks here, and that's the Sobek in place of Cerberus. I think that this is a very volatile pick, and that Sobek is really good. He can be really tanky. He's super disruptive. But if you miss Pluck late game, or even if you hit Pluck and they have beads, you better pray to whatever god you believe in that they don't have follow-up off of that, because you are essentially a sitting duck at that point. So I like this because it's going to be a very easy setup for the Nuwa, for the Kamzots. When a Sobek plucks somebody, you know exactly where they're going to land. It's an age-old combo of something like Sobek into Artemis, or Sobek into an Onher. You know where they're going to land, so you can set up your next follow-up damage, your next follow-up CC immediately afterwards. It's going to be the same thing with Nuwa and Kamazotz, where he's going to throw it, here's the point they land, dump every ability you have onto that single point. So I like the Sobek pick comparatively to the Cerberus, because Cerberus, your big threat is, did my ultimate get their beats? Where Sobek is, hey, in 12 seconds, I'm going to get your beads again. Hey, in another 12 seconds, here goes your bead. So I like this, and, well, hey, pairing it with the Artemis, I wasn't trying to bring it into existence.
Yeah, you
but
definitely spoke that one through.
But here we are with the combo there. Also then for Team Costic, love the Yu Huang pick. Very, I don't even want to say necessarily difficult god to play, but if you want to win early game, this god's first 5-6 levels are so potent in the amount of poke that he provides with that Phoenix Fire, if you can land the root along with it through that Dao cultivation. The hardest part about this god is that dueling dragons. That is the make or break point on this god, and what separates your bronze Yu Huang players from your masters Yu Huang players is the ability to be able to utilize that ultimate, not just for its damage, but primarily for its CC and its displacement. If you can find a dueling dragon in the backline and push 1 or 2 people, including a carry, you're golden. You have done your job as the Yu Huang with that ultimate. The hardest part is getting that lineup and getting that landing, but with the changes that have been made to it, with how fast it moves now, with the adjustments to its timing and feel, this god feels so much more fluid now.
I agree. It is a god that, if I'm not mistaken, is very comfortable in deep within, not even deep within, towards the front of XD's god pool, so that could be pretty exciting as well. Again, a player who can control of a wide variety of characters, mid laners who are more artillery, stand in the back, hide away, and as we saw on that Tiamat, can be comfortable going through. I do also want to talk about the Osiris, because that's another character that we have yet to see, and one that I was sort of wondering a little bit about. There's, you know, all these itemization changes. There are some items that sit right within that pocket of Osiris choices, Osiris mid-game decision making, that could definitely bring that character out to the forefront in a composition where it looks like their goal is dive, set up, kill, get out. Dive, set up, kill, get out again. So does it fit in?
Unironically, I would actually really like to see this Osiris jungle as opposed to solo. Kamazotz has a ton of self-sustain, so he can match whatever a King Arthur wants to do. Sure. Even if King Arthur is going into something like Shield of the Phoenix like we saw last game, Kamazotz can do the same, and it's also going to get an extra ton of healing with there. So I think throwing the Camisots there in solo to go up against the King Arthur matches the sustain, matches the damage output. You have an immense amount of safety where you can use Bat Out of Hell, get out of danger no matter what. And throw Osiris in the jungle. And the main reason I say that, not even because of the Return of Fatale, which I think is a fine item on Osiris, it's Stone Cutting Sword. He makes such good use of Stone Cutting Sword with his auto attack cancels. You auto 1, auto 2, auto 3, whatever order that you want to do. That's just the generic way that you auto cancel on Osiris, is you throw your first 2 autos, ability, first 2 autos, ability. Just keep that on repeat. He stacks up the Stone Cutting Sword so effectively. He gets so many extra prots from it because he's using abilities. He's getting more prots from his passive. I think it's such a synergistic item with him that I would love to see out of a jungle Osiris. If he's going solo, it's a bit trickier because while things like Kin Size and Stone Cutting Sword can work on him in the solo, if you're building a solo Osiris, you want him to be much tankier. So the only time you're going to see things like the Kin Size and whatnot is a lot later in the build. Once he's got his defenses and he's fine, if you throw it on him early game in the jungle, now you don't have to worry because I'm looking at a new wall. You are eating that god alive as an Osiris. What is she doing? The only thing you have to juke as an Osiris is the Shining Metal Clay Soldier combo. And that's a hard one to juke because they're just going to latch right onto you as soon as you attack. So as long as you can wait for that Shining Metal to go off and then jump on the new wall, that is your easy target. And you can also just ult over it if you really need to. There's so many options that you have to be able to combat this new wall along with the Hugh Wong. I think that Osiris, wait, I was just talking about Osiris diving the new wall. Man, I am so cooked today. Good Lord.
Well, you know, a part of it too.
You didn't even stop me. You just let me bury myself there. I am 6 feet under now.
Here's the thing, though, about the Osiris, right? Even if it does go solo, if it does go jungle, one thing about Valo in particular is the Camisots is a Valo pick. That's one of the main ones I think of. When I think Valo, I think of Camisots, and I think of Mercury has always been a big pick for me. Osiris can fill that slot, but I've never personally seen it happen. So that's what I'm looking for. We'll see if Valo's able to pull it through. We'll see what goes to the jungle. But more importantly, let's head into game with Dulcin and Gormizer.
Maybe just one more time we go into game. Team Rudy versus Team Costic. Gore, you and I were chatting. I don't know what J-Mac predicted here. Also, Dig Dog? Really?
Yeah.
Who made that choice?
Your mom.
God, and she's right.
Like, not even like a joking, haha, your mom joke, but like that's your family.
You're right. Man, I can't argue with that, can I? That's my life now. I don't know what J-Mac predicted. I think he was trying to predict where the Camisots and the Osiris would go. Did he predict solo?
We were yapping.
You and I were talking about hockey or something. It is Osiris
not even
solo.
hockey season, by the way. Don't know why that came up.
Yeah, my poor Bruins. Your poor Sabres. Goodness. We're not going. We're not. No.
Years and they haven't lost a single playoff game, baby. Woo!
Right. One of these days.
Ignore the tears coming out of my eyes.
One of these days. Don't you worry. Well, regardless of what J-Mac predicted, is Osiris solo lane? Valo back on the Camisots in the jungle. One of the near win conditions, I'll say, for Team Rudy in game 1. Obviously a really slow start, but that Camisots found great dive onto Grave throughout the team fights in the mid to late game and nearly pulled back game number 1.
I'm really interested to see how that translates because, like, Artemis isn't really the strongest early on when it comes down to it, but she's stronger than Freya's going to be right early on. I'm just really interested to see if this lane gets bullied as hard as the last one. It's not going to last nearly as long. And so if Grave and Malachi are going to lean on it, I mean, you've got the same 2 gods, right? You theoretically can. But it is going to take a little longer, or not a little longer. It's going to be a little harder to get that same amount of pressure. In fact, it's actually turning around on you.
Bop, bop. Drops Horrific Emblem. Nearly picks up a kill onto Malachi. Got to admit, the Artemis icon jump scared me. Happen uses beat.
Yeah.
So Yu Huang early in the game. Up down doesn't get the kill. No, it's Happen who does, but XD flips it back around. You need to land all these autos, all your abilities, but no, it's not there. Aegis out from XD.
Phoenix Fire?
And both mid laners back away. Just a 1-for-1 trade over in mid. Both mid laners grabbing the kill. Both junglers grabbing an assist. Both junglers also dying. But I don't remember who got first blood. Happen got first blood, right, and then XD picked it up after that. So small edge over to Team Rudy.
But That's actually that's what I was gonna say.
I'm sorry, Gore.
Yeah, the small edge being the first blood. No, yeah, that and it doesn't make as huge a difference as maybe it could, especially when you lose your jungler right after. Like a lot of that pressure. I honestly, if there were cooldowns or maybe a slightly different little bit of aim from XD001 there, we were probably getting something. I also see Rat Squid going for a game. Ooh.
Up and over. Rat Squid, Rudy, well timed on the beats. This is the issue with Artemis. You're just gonna get chased down. You got nothing else. And there is enough damage from Team Khastik. 3-man over on left. Bop on the chase. Chance to send one back. Grave. Oh no, the minions. Are they going to get it done? No, they won't. But King Bop sure does. And now there's just not enough damage to kill off this Sobek. Careful of a pluck back under the tower. Bop. Rudy, all of them playing with fire over in duo. But again, 1-for-1 trade. I
like the idea. Grave eating that tower shot hurt way more than they maybe could have known, and it's especially because the minions were right there, right? There was just the perfect scenario for Bop to be able to turn that around. Also perfect scenario because, again, it's the supports that end up getting the kills and the carries who end up falling, except Grave gets the assist. Rudy does not. So there's going to be an advantage at least for Grave. Small advantage right now for King Bop because of the kill and where he's been at in terms of pressure. But I like to see the fact that Team Rudy, as far as they were knocked down, and heavily as they were knocked down in Game 1, are not letting the same thing happen in this early game. It's a much slower pace overall, and even more so, it is nowhere near as domineering for Team Khastik as it had been. Making sure that the jungle isn't getting super far ahead, which admittedly, I will also say might be just a Nike thing. Like, yes, Nike's going to be good. I think the itemization right now can maybe facilitate her to feel pretty solid, but you are not going to be doing the Circuit level of kills.
Oh, Rundus. Goodbye, my friend. It's a Valo gank over on right. Unfortunate timing for the King Arthur. And Karmic on this Osiris. Good early kill there. Valo a bit more active here in game number 2. Took a little while for the Camazotz to show up first time around, Gore. Seems like Team Rudy and their jungler a bit more focused on some of those early game kills this time. I think Rundus died early in game 1, too.
Yeah.
Happens again here in game 2, though.
I know, man, King Arthur's been the talk for a lot of solo laners. He's pretty good. He does his thing.
Yeah, he'd be all right.
I got beef with King Arthur in that we watched him for so long that I'm just so tired of seeing this guy.
Yeah.
Even though, like, he hasn't, realistically, I haven't had to watch any King Arthur in like a year, really, but I'm okay with him getting ganked like that, and especially because it showcases a little bit more. Not only is Karmic doing a lot on the Osiris, but doubly so, you've got Valo on this Camazotz that is going to really give you a lot more capability to find kills like that, as opposed to what the Nike's going to give. Nike is going to bring a lot of CC, a lot of control, but like, again, Nike, even with the cooldown, even with some items under her belt, is going to be much more setup. It's slows, it's roots, it's knocking you around with the shield and finding control body blocks, things like that for your team. A little bit of damage later on, whereas, you know, if I'm looking at Valo, you've got the safety. I want to see you getting aggressive. I want to see you making plays like that gank. I want to see you putting pressure onto Team Khastik, and that's going to be what can really drive forward, not just furthering the lead your team already has, but really giving you a sense of control that you didn't really get to have fully in Game 1.
Rundus does have ultimate, therefore safety. No more mana though, half HP. Rat Squid makes their way over towards right. Nike can go in, sure does. Sentinel of Zeus starts off this fight. Bat out of hell from Valo. The Rat Squid is reading this escape route. Rend, just one more. No, he needed 2 more. Doesn't get it. Valo flips the script. Malachi just wide on the hammer. Goodness, nice dodge. But the route runs right into the Yu Huang and XD. Second kill, this one gifted by Team Rudy. Team Khastik, through all the scrapping and fighting, finds another.
It felt like it was going to be good. I thought Valo was out. If I'm being honest, I thought he was clean. I thought he got away with murder. Unfortunately for him, does get caught off. Great for Team Costic, though, to have a fight like that go their way. Again, trying to keep it a little closer. It is not a good look for your jungler to be 0-2 and 3, but when your Yu Huang is able to pick up 2 kills and also show something to me, we don't see a lot of Yu Huangs, and when we did, some of them were, I'll just call them all right. I feel like Yu Huang dies or lives by his ult. And so seeing one that is very concise, well-placed right there gives me a lot of hope in what Team Costic's mid laner is going to be able to provide for this game. That is going to be the setup. The follow-up, you're going to have the damage. You know you're going to have the damage. You got Grave, you've got a lot. But if you can nail those ultimates on a Yu Huang, that can change a defense, it can change an offense, it can change neutral team fights. Anywhere on this map, if you hit a good Yu Huang ult, just yoinking someone away from their team really does set your team up for tons of success, tons of follow-up.
Yep. Agreed.
Shouts Benny Q, who really, really rocked it.
Sure did, didn't he? Yeah, there was a Yu Huang era there for a little while. What would Mifflin always say? Like his first 3 levels are
some
of the strongest
really,
in the game.
Really good levels 1 through 3, and then really good after like level 13.
Drops off for a second, but XD makes it work. Doing Dragons again, sort of spoon-fed a kill there just a moment ago. Still keeping pace with Happen. The Nuwa was not anything to write a big story home about in Game 1. Had its moments, but again, everything was going against Team Rudy at first in Game 1. So not only keeping pace, but even being a bit ahead. Team Costic, a much better start here. A lot of focus paid towards the right side of the map. Slowing Karmic down key, even in a loss. Karmic close to MVP for me in game number 1. That Cullen dragged Team Rudy back into the game. A good early look on the Osiris here. Wing Dragon sends Happen back, but got that Nuwa ult. Didn't need to use it, but just pokes away. A little bit of damage, a little bit of information for Team Rudy. Keep eyes on Team Costic across the map.
Yeah, that was a I don't have beads and I don't want to die here ult more than anything for Happen. And I'm also really, watching this new WA, like you said, because last game, while it didn't have a lot of pop-off moments, there were so many times Happen very obviously was trying to get a kill, and that kill, unfortunately, was Grave, and Grave just said, okay, and went into the Whirlpool form and ignored it. You still have that interaction, but I hope for Happen's sake that there's a little bit more for them to lean on for this new WA. The Prot Shred did just get nerfed, so there's going to be a little bit less of that going overall for what Team Rudy's going to be able to apply, but she still got good burst, still feels like a decent god, did get a good bit of moments in the Shining Light last game, so I'm going to keep watching it with bated breath.
Agreed. And it's just this lull. Right before
they
maybe
slowed down a little bit compared to last game. Last game, it was
we were already
we
at
didn't
12
have an
kills.
opportunity to think for ourselves.
And you know what, Gore? It was a nice way to knock off some rust. And I am still a little bit rusty, but my goodness, like 15 kills in the first 10 minutes of the game. I'm nosediving back into team fights right off the bat. Now we get to knock off the calm rust. Get to talk a little bit in between the kills and the chaos. But again, this is not me describing it. The teams have described themselves as really ranked grinders, ranked mindsets, run-it-down styles of teams. And so, I think if I'm rewinding to like the SPL mindset, this is where the game really stabilizes. We're not taking any risks. Team Rudy are able to snag the objective. But the game takes a breather. I'm not so sure, Gore, that these two teams are going to take a complete breather. I know we're getting one right now. Just feels like we're on the verge of something breaking out over nothing all that important here at any moment.
All it takes is one person stepping forward and really causing a ruckus for him. Might be Grave just because of positioning, although, again, it's a Charybdis, so I don't know if
give me this 1v1. Rudy sends out Tusky, but it's a Maw to answer back. Grave, oh no, he's low, but is there support? Oh, yes, there is. Just by Happens chance, he's up in the air and sends some damage over towards left. Grave takes a tumble, and it's a 2-level lead, rather, for Rudy of Team Rudy. And now a Gold Fury. Great team play for Team Rudy, picking up a kill, grabbing the objective, unless Malachi can somehow send a hammer on through. Does not. Still a scrap happening over on right, though. Rundus escapes beneath the tier 1.
I feel like we saw a lot of similar positioning sometimes in game 1, right? Where it was just like, okay, Karmic is just getting the better end of this lane, was causing a little bit of trouble. Unfortunately, then, Karmic, I think at one point got ganked, otherwise was in good control. And I feel like, as much as we haven't talked about it, solo lane might be the big difference makers coming up. Now you've got a team that's ahead. Karmic was already playing insane last game. You actually have a team behind you. That's going to be crazy when you can walk up as an Osiris, and it's not just this 1v3, 1v4. You can walk up and actually have a fight that is going to, again, have a carry behind you, your mid laner behind you, ultimates that are going to land CC that matters. It's going to change the landscape around like Fire Giant, Pyromancer in a future, the Fury, but definitely not for the next few minutes until that's back up. But it's the beacon that I want to see, specifically if anybody puts a lot of pressure on it, because already Happn's getting poked out against the wall as well. My God, a lot of damage.
And Happen does not have anything. Will have ultimate in just a moment, but no fight where that'll make that necessary. Not just yet. Happen will go back to base, reset, rejoin the rest of his team. Team Rudy in on the support, but Beads and Aegis both off the new, well, XD keeps both in the back pocket. Malachi plucked back by Bop Bop. And Bop Bop has looked a lot more active early in this game on the Sobek core. It's been a welcome change, I think, for Team Rudy. Not only one of the throw potentials, but also one of the carry potentials. Bop Bop has been shouted out by both teams. It's great so far. Neutral objective, once again, unable to be stolen away by Malachi. Rudy gets another Tusky, stuns and deletes Grave over on left. Rat Squid is in, but Rudy's got minions and Rudy's got damage. Rudy's got Aegis, but he's knocked up on the other side, and Rat Squid returns the favor. 1 for 1 on the left.
I'm going to say it, though, doesn't matter. Certified solo. Rudy got that kill onto Grave before there was any interference. And realistically, otherwise it's a 1v2. So you're going to be happy about it no matter what. If that knock-up was not there, if Rat Squid did not time that appropriately, that is a second kill for Rudy. I think he's got the damage already online into a good spot. But this is a great spot for Team Khastik in general to be putting on pressure, forcing Karmic to ult, being able to find a lot of control over on the right side of the map, putting some pressure on the left side of the map, getting a kill onto Rudy, who is 3 levels up. You really need something to get Grave back in this game because he is level 12 right now to the 15 on the other side. And that is going to be a huge pressure point, very similar to what happened to Rudy last game.
My goodness, how many times have we seen this? XD just flips around the damage. Happen is low and on the back foot. Bop Bop was in to try to help out, but man, XD 3-0 now, killing spree over in mid, and Happen has just been low health, it feels like, over in mid. And it's almost like the support rotating in finally starts the fight and almost baits in Happen. This time it's to his death.
This left lane is very exciting, but for all the wrong reasons, Rudy might go for another kill here. If he can find Grave in a good spot, minions are going to cause a little bit of trouble. But you've got your ult. If you can work out the Whirlpool early, with the Beads and Aegis, maybe.
What kind of boar is Tusky? Caledonian?
A Caledonian
boar. Remember the boar, and I remember Tusky. Caledonian, though. Well, there he is. Couple stuns. Fun fact, fun Dave fact. First ranked pentakill I ever got
was on Artemis. I think Lermy still has that clip somewhere.
That is a Lermy clip.
Because that was in the Dave to Diamond, wasn't it?
Dave to Diamond, right. We have been, goodness. Talk about a project left unfinished. Might have to dust that one
still
off.
In project.
Yeah, except this is like Dave out of bronze nowadays. Much less Dave to Diamond. Pyromancer peeked at by Team Rudy. Malachi. It's only been the Fafnir. A Fafnir hammer has been the only potential steal we've seen really at this point. Though this time, Rat Squid close by. Happen taking a decent bit of damage. Up into the sky goes Happen. He's going to crash down. And there's damage waiting for him on the other end. But a pluck back from Bop Bop saves his life. The Maw won't have the range, neither will the Ren. Bop Bop's put himself right at the front of all the action. XD picks up a kill. Team Costic not only bailing out Happen, but killing off Bop Bop. Pyromancer still stands, so kill +1 maybe for Team Costic.
Yeah, that might have been about as good of a fight as you could hope. Happen getting low, if you're Team Costic, that is. Happen getting low and not dying is an unfortunate scenario for you, but you still get to kill off Bop Bop. Rudy's nowhere near to be found, doesn't get a tier 2. You get to knock a tower down, you get the kill. You should get this. You also showcase that Karmic, Valo, despite their survivability and maybe tankiness, can in fact bleed and can get taken down. But you got to be careful here, especially with Malachi so low, XD001 low. There's not a large opening. He might have given this away.
Ooh, Rudy able to confirm the Pyromancer. Karmic will pick up that tower shred, maybe. Gonna use it on the FG here. Wow, it's a full 5-man from Team Costic, but it's gonna take a second for Malachi to get here. And Rat Squid is over on left as well. Rudy certainly has the damage, but Team Costic close by. Hoping for a steal, needing something. Caledonian Boar goes out. Tusky stuns no one, but buys enough space for Team Rudy to grab FG just shy of 17 minutes into game 2.
Early Fire Giants are always a very difficult thing to gauge.
Yeah.
Because you got it, you won the fights going into it. Like, everything about this was earned. Your gold lead right now is all set up, and anything that you get after this Fire Giant is going to be absolutely immense. The problem is getting stuff done with a 17-minute Fire Giant that impacts the map in a way that feels as meaningful as something that could happen maybe 24 minutes in, or, you know, like we saw last time, 30 minutes in. Phoenixes are going to be a lot harder to get to. The Yu Huang makes them harder already because he could just pull you in if you're in the wrong spot, so you have to be very careful where you aggress onto him. You also have to get there to begin with. Tier 1s are even something that Team Costic could set up and defend up against a Fire Giant at 17 minutes. I don't know if I want them to hard defense it, maybe soft defense around the mid Tier 1 specifically, but otherwise you could let those fall back and set up a hard line at your Tier 2s, really make sure that that's where the line of scrimmage is and that it'll be difficult for Team Rudy to get anything further beyond that.
What happens to Malachi here? Dueling Dragons from XD maybe separates out the fight. I think Malachi is okay there either way. Bop. Rest of Team Rudy still hovering close by. They've got, Rudy has a healthy lead here. Team Costic, though, they've still got some presence around these engagements. Valo with Bat Out of Hell feeling a bit emboldened to step forward. It's a confirmation of the objective for Team Costic, though, over in mid. And a reset from Team Rudy, not worth risking that big lead for something, well, maybe not that important.
Yeah, it feels like this might just be a, let's get a little bit of gold Fire Giant. Like, the longer it goes, the more likely it is just a kind of see where we can get. You got a Tier 1 in right, you got this Fury. Probably going to be able to pick up a Pyromancer when it respawns, which I'm going to count it under this Fire Giant, even if I think the Fire Giant buff is going to fall off a little bit before we see that Pyromancer come in. This Tier 1, again, soft defense. You can see how quickly that's going to fall down, especially with Rudy already level 20.
Oh, no. Malachi, goodness gracious, where'd he go? Rudy has an answer. Is that Rudy's ultimate that just chunked down these two members of Team Costic? XD beneath his own Phoenix. There's still a Tier 2 tower, but Team Rudy don't care. They'll go and dive in. And it's Valo with Bat Out of Hell and 2 kills to boot. Rat Squid and Rundus got nothing else to say. You don't have much more range at all, but Team Rudy, you guys got one more tower to deal with here. 25 or so seconds might be a mid lane Phoenix.
It really should be. I mean, I can't think of a better word than just dominant. I mean, they just erased people on Team Costic like it was nothing. And being able to step up in that kind of regard, I mean, Rudy was untouched. Look at Rudy's health bar. Rudy's full health has used a little bit of mana, and that's it. I think most of that was from using the ult. Like, being able to get that far in there, your carry's free casting, Happens free casting, Bob's not getting punished for a pluck, Karmic is able to dive, Vala is able to dive. This might be the best position Team Rudy could be in, especially for the way that Fire Giant was. You've got a gold lead. You still have experience, although now that you're starting to hit 20, that one's going to start to dwindle. And you see it really translate into items, and they should have, yeah, 2,500, 2,200 gold in hand, some others just now spending it. They're going to have a lot going for them. And I'm a big fan of the way, specifically, like, some of these builds have gone. You've got Osiris. I love Oni Hunter's Garb. I'm a sucker for that item.
Yeah, agreed.
And when you are playing the way that they are playing, like, you are jumping in their face, you are fighting them, you are almost always surrounded by at minimum 3. You've got an Aussie chin-size Artemis behind you. Like, get in there, fight. You're going to have the mitigations. You are set up for success. And until Grave is caught up in build, or at least, you know, at this point, I guess kind of have some build parity, but able to have the same impact, Team Rudy's going to continue just rolling over them.
You know, Oni Hunters, I don't know if it's always been the best item, but it's always given me this, like, false sense of security when I put it in my build. I'm like, All right, so it gets better when more people are around me, more enemies are around me.
I'm going to fight everyone.
Right, I want to fight everyone all at once. Even if it's a terrible item, I've always found a spot for it in my builds, I feel like, and it probably doesn't speak volumes to me as a player, but it's always given me this mindset that I'm unstoppable as long as I'm in the middle of literally everyone on the other team.
As long as all of you are trying to kill me,
right,
I'm unstoppable.
And then they kill me, and I'm like, wait, what just happened?
Yeah, that was calculated.
I miscalculated.
Boy, am I bad at
here.
math.
Well, Fire Giant fell off a moment or so ago, and the next one will respawn. Team Costic.
Yeah, I think you can just let this go.
Nowhere close. I mean, you're hoping for base defense at this point. Team Rudy, heck of a game number 2 here. Honestly, Gore, there are moments where we're thinking they maybe should have won game 1 despite being down 10 or so kills. That Freya really came alive. It was a death on a King Bop Bop underneath that mid lane Phoenix that opened up the door. Team Costic. This is the style of game that we saw halfway through game 1 from Team Rudy, and we're seeing it from the get-go. Some changes to the duo lane, aggression from Valo. Happen has been able to get out of a lot on the Nuwa. Been a much better look, start to finish, more complete game. Not complete yet, more complete so far from Team Rudy.
I do like how Khastik is replying to this as a squad, though. Like, you know, you don't need that Fire Giant. It's not enhanced. You need to push up Fire Minions in mid, which they did. You need to defend this right side, which is going to be a little more difficult now that ults are getting dropped.
Rudy does drop the ult, and that's a pluck back to Malachi. Happen with number 1. Valo with number 2. Goodness, there could still be more. My God, the Phoenix is gone. Happen on a double kill. And it's Rat, Squid, and Grave. Last alive, back in Fountain, and Team Rudy. They're going to tie things up here. They're going to send us on to a game 3. Team Davey wants a 5-0 weekend. Neither of the teams on this side of the bracket will get it. 1 game away from sending 1 to finals and 1 to our 3rd place match.
So much goes just better, blanket statement, overall for Team Rudy there. And I think part of it is their investment in their team, the way they change things up. You get Artemis, she's online a lot faster, she's able to do a lot more. The duo lane as a whole, the Sobek Artemis, like, actually got to play the game as opposed to Cerberus and Freya. Like, there just wasn't a whole lot in game 1 that the left side of the map was able to do, and we saw the Nuwa get bullied pretty heavily. And that's where the other thing that goes well for Team Rudy is in game 1, that Nuwa is getting sat on. In this game, you have a Nike on the other side.
Yeah.
And you know, you could have the best Nike. Again, there's just so much that she's not able to do that an assassin in that scenario would have been able to do and to create. So maybe too much setup, too much maybe survivability, and not enough actual like kill potential on the side of Costic that left that door closed a little bit. I loved the Yu Huang in mid. If the Charybdis could have got there, I think it would have been great, but everything else didn't really hit the same way that it did in game 1.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Gore. I think the changes to duo lane, it's night and day. It allowed Rudy and Bop Bop to play the game this time. what a difference the Sobek looked like in the hands of Bop Bop. Because in the pregame interviews, and a lot of these players were getting to know for the first time through their interviews, through their gameplay, Bop Bop is the name that kept getting said. Either he's going to feed or he's going to win you the game.
And he's done one of each.
He's done one of each now. It's been great looks on the turnaround from Team Rudy. Game 3, winner take all. It's coming up next.
That's my villain era, look out. I go hard for my heart, play with her, it go down. Now you blocked, don't make a sound. Don't wish you no harm, but I hope that no good come around. In my space, there's no cheaters allowed. I gave you my word. Try it again, you're gonna lose your girlfriend. The nerve to think I wouldn't disappear from your life. Watch me. All this blue ice water in my veins. Memorial service in your name. Cold-blooded, blooded. You're trying to spin the block now. Bring flowers to my job now. Oh, you realize what you lost now. I've been pressure never stop now, but I'm way too good at goodbyes. Bet you thought grass was green on that other side. Guess what? I'ma help you decide. Tattooed on my tears, no, I swear that you won't catch me cry. Got no reasons left to rewind. I gave you my word. Try it again, I'll put you on a bench. Do not disturb. To think I used to dream of being your wife. Cold-blooded.
Hello and welcome back in more Content Creator Cup Game 3 this time, and it has been a crazy couple of games that we've seen up to this point, and it's been back and forth. It feels like each game's had its rising hero. In the last game, the big standout to me was the Sobek, and also Rudy getting to have an actual performance, getting to play the video game a little bit, so good for Rudy in that aspect. But it leads us to a Game 3, J-Mac, and a Game 3 where I feel like we're... let's look at stats, see kind of where we're going from this, because there's a lot of kind of unknowns to me, and a lot of knowns. The known is the Sobek was a problem for Team Costic to begin with, but a lot of unknowns still remain.
Yeah, I think the big difference, I think you're right to highlight, is that dual lane. Sobek Artemis gets online so much faster than a Cerberus Freya does, and more than anything, Sobek is just one of the biggest pain in the sides for a Fafnir. What does a Fafnir want to do at the beginning of a fight? Transform into dragon form, and then immediately start jumping around and going absolutely chaotic. What happens when Fafnir does this transform? He literally plants himself in the exact spot where he's going to land, and Sobek can just punish that instantly. And then, instead of being able to use your leap to go in and be aggressive, you now have to use it defensively to try and get away. Another god that's really good at punishing a god that has to stand still for a duration is an Artemis. So you get stuck in the Artemis trap. As soon as that wears off, you get tossed back by a Sobek. And if the cooldowns were used fast enough, and if you're able to play around it, you can maybe get another trap sometime shortly after that pluck. So there's just a lot of very dangerous unknowns that you have to fight into as a Fafnir in that matchup specifically. Is the Sobek pluck up? Is the Artemis trap available? Like, what's going to happen to me here? And sure, there was some good pressure put on Rudy by Team Khastik early in the game. You saw the rotation from the Nike to try and go over there and really deal with him a little bit. But when you get to the late game, and you even kind of get to this mid-game point where your Fafnir no longer really gets to operate the game, it makes it so much more difficult to really fight around there. The number of times that we saw that this Nuwa was able to narrowly escape death, get themselves out of a dueling dragon, to be able to just jump into the sky and completely get away from a team fight, allow this Nuwa to really get the damage online as well. It's a late game to where you don't really matter how many or few deaths and kills that are thrown out there, Nuwa's just going to have a ton of damage anyway. So I really did like the composition that was built around here. While I would have liked to see Osiris jungle, just because I think that he does have some good strength in the jungle. I like what we saw built onto there. Going shifters into Glad Shield gives you a lot of extra protections and a really good amount of damage in the early game to really be able to combat something like a King Arthur.
Yeah, there was a lot of value that we saw used there from Team Rudy. And another thing, too, something that kind of pops into my mind and becomes a question for me, JMac, is after you have a game 1 where you play so well, you're on top of the world, and you're going into game 2 saying, all right, these are our picks, we're locked in, we've got the Charybdis, the Fafnir combination, we get it back for game 2, this is our selection, we're locked in. What do you do if it doesn't work? Do you throw the plan out the window? Do you try to go back to that mindset from game 1? That's always a big question for me.
It's one of those things where I think that you can somewhat go back to this. I think that the Charybdis is fine. I don't really have too many notes fighting as a Charybdis. I think that Artemis is a decent matchup into the Charybdis because you have such easy chase between Tusky, between popping that second ability stem. You can really get a lot of good chase going down. I think the biggest thing is if you want to go for Charybdis plus Fafnir, and specifically if you want to go for Fafnir again, you need to take Sobek away because that pluck is one of the hardest things to deal with. The general disrupt that a Sobek provides for a team and for a single individual god at any given moment is so difficult to deal with. And it's so many moments where you just see, all right, well, I'm going to Sobek pluck into the middle of this team fight, and now all of their attention is on me. Or, hey, I'm going to Sobek pluck this Fafnir so he can't continue to initiate on top. That, for me, is the big difference. Because right there, Fafnir just doesn't get to play the game. He de-transforms, and now that players are getting more used to the de-transform timing, as opposed to the standard, we all know how fast he transforms. Once players start getting used to that de-transform timing, they're going to be able to get those CCs more consistently, be able to land those cripples out there, especially with this Artemis. So I think if you go for the Faf, at the bare minimum, you probably need to get rid of the Sobek. I don't know if an Artemis ban is warranted, but Artemis is another problem with it. So I think if you take the Faf, take it a little bit later in the draft so you can see if it's a good matchup for him.
I like that. I like replacing your options in terms of position, less than actually replacing the character. We barely even got to touch on the mid lane matchup between Happen and XD there with the Nuwa versus the Yuhuang. We were talking a lot about what would the Yuhuang do, and I mentioned that it was a big pick for XD that I've seen time and time again, and it paid off. The dividends were there. Now, where do you go with that? Because I mentioned at the top of the god pool for XD, that is a very varied god pool, and if this matchup comes down to mid, because the ADCs are now getting focused out, we're seeing bans go that way, which we haven't yet, but if we see selections go that way, things taken away, this really could open up more opportunity for mid to even further become the focal point of this matchup.
I do like the Camazot's ban here, something that Vala was pretty comfortable on his previous matches. So taking that one away, forcing him to play onto something different is going to be at least a nice little boost for Team Khastik. Putting the Lancelot in there as well. So really the only slotted difference is that the Chalk had been banned by Team Khastik in that second pick spot, which almost leads me to believe that they might want to take that in first pick now that they do have that opportunity. Won't get it anyways. Team Rudy, go ahead and take that one off the table. So we're essentially left with almost the exact same bans, aside from E-Shell. That one was left open and gets locked in here for Team Costic.
That's frightening.
That is a really strong pick right now. What's made E-Shell so difficult in the past was that her damage was a little bit lower. Her heal from her ultimate only was affected whenever she was healing an ally god, and then she got the benefit from it. And to really get that big value, you had to be along with somebody else. Now that she heals herself no matter what in the ultimate, it's really knocked her up a couple of extra tiers on the tier list. Not just that, with everybody's health and protections going down. Her I almost got that kill poke is starting to turn into I'm getting that kill. With her cooldowns being so low, her CC and mobility being fairly high, and saying that she has high mobility is a weird thing because she doesn't have a dash. She doesn't have a leap. But that root being on a decently short cooldown and the orbs that fly out from there granting the movement speed to the team make her so valuable. And plus the heal is just really good as well. I already mentioned in previous test segments, but healing now is more valuable than it has been since, what was it, 10.3 or some odd, whenever the healing changes got adjusted. Right. When this god essentially hit the battleground, this is the best that her heals have ever been, and allows her to either use it for CC to set up for the rest of her team or her own combo, or pull back and get 180 some odd HP back for you and your team on a very short cooldown. So I really like E-Shell. It's going to be a little tricky fighting into a Cerberus. Cerberus is just good for any kind of sustained based compositions, but E-Shell is just one of the top poke mages in the game right now.
The rat gets me excited because we've been talking about the rat quite a bit today, and if we would see it, because the changes do impact rat. There's multiple routes you can go now that all feel really good on Ratatasker, and you've always got the staples of why rat's good. You're gonna hear the 7 global ultimate, be able to get around through the cosmos. All the good stuff about rat is good, but the build path you can go right now makes me very excited to see what that rat can bring for Team Costic. The Nuwa, though, is being run back. We're seeing that again, which I'm excited to hear you're taking the Nuwa, so I'll touch on the Ishtar, because for me, it's a bit more simple of a matchup there. It feels like both of these guys, Rudy and Grave, just want to hold down left click, look for the big numbies, and hope it works out. It's just, is it the Charybdis? Is it the Artemis? Where are we going with it? That matchup's going to stay mostly the same. The Nuwa, though, we're sticking to it, JMac. How are we feeling?
I think Nuwa's fine. Nuwa does a lot of damage whenever you get to the late game, has good poke, and decent survivability in the early game. It's hard to really try and fight into Clay's Soldier Shining Metal combo, that easy 2-3 pop.
Will help with Rat, too.
For any Nuwa. It's going to be difficult for Ratatasker, especially playing into the fog. You go up into the sky on the tree, and you pretty much cover the entire, if not even more so, than the area that the mist really kind of provides there. So you do have an easy way to get that dunk, and if you can get them on like the edge, like the outer edge of that fog at the very least, then you can make sure to kind of guarantee the rest of your combo. But she's still just not a fun god to really ever fight into. The only real, honestly, probably the two best gods to try and fight into Nuwa, one of them being a jungle, one of them being a mid laner, I guess you can also say jungle, is Chang'e and Robin. Those are the two best gods to fight into Nuwa, because her combo's predictable. When you see soldiers on you and she turns back around, she's going to Shining Metal. Easiest response is just to press 2 on either of those gods and immune it. So you have to play very carefully around this god. I would love to see these locked in.
Same.
Because Hercules is one of the best ranged initiators for the warrior class. Because you stand away at almost auto attack range, you press 2, and if you hit somebody, that's either a free set of beads or likely a free kill depending on the side of the game. And if you're burning their beads, who better than to punish even harder on that than a god like Kumbhakarna?
Burning beads and CC, JMac. Look how much of the jungle has been controlled by Khastik. And I mentioned Valo's got a very particular god pool. You've got control now, and Valo's deep in god pool and saying, all right, what can I grab here that isn't going to be affected by that CC?
This is a game where I wish that I could hack the game and have 2 sets of beads.
Yeah.
And be able to buy 6 Magi's blessings. Like having CC immunity
consumable Magi's
into Kumbhakarn is like the most important. There are fewer gods in this game that when I see them, even as a tank sometimes, I'm like, man, I could really use beads. I really probably need a Magi's. If I'm a jungler, I'm probably getting both. Whatever god gets picked up for Team Rudy for jungle is likely going to have 1, a CC immune ultimate, 2, a set of beads picked up if not in the second slot then. And they're probably going to get a Magi's blessing. Or they might have some other form of CC immunity in their kit. I think a Robin might be a decent one here because Kumbhakarna also fairly predictable in his CC. You dive on top of him, the first thing that he wants to do is immediately go for that yawn, Mezu, and being able to know and predict that's pretty simple. Serket's fine with it. You can interrupt him out of that Groggy Strike more than anything, which is one of the longest wind-up abilities in the game. It's a very predictable 2 seconds. I'm going to sit there and charge it up.
I also really like the anti-heal angle, too, here, JMac, for Team Rudy. That kind of just clicked to me. I had this moment of, oh, man, they've really got it covered in all the bases here, because we were looking at this possible sustain from Rat, the E-Shell heal, the Hercules, of course, but Rudy's kind of got that on lock.
Yeah, the CC for Team Costic, the biggest thing, the anti-heal for Team Rudy, as you mentioned, Osiris, Serket, both their ultimates, 100% true anti-heal. Cerberus reducing healing plus stealing a little bit of it there. It's going to be really good into E-Shell. Everybody else doesn't care as much about it. Obviously, Hercules with his own self-sustain is going to want some. Ratatasker with the Acorns is probably going to want a little bit.
There's a difference between feels bad and being eliminated from the conversation.
Yeah, E-Shell effectively does not get to utilize about half of her kit, as I say, effectively. Her heal is pretty much going to be non-existent. The heal from her ultimate's not going to do anything in late-game team fights, really, unless they can get ahead on this E-Shell. And I think that's the big thing, is I would love to see this Rat just constantly camp this mid lane. Keep this new Nuwa down, make sure that they are unable to get online and allow this E-Shell to really just start bullying the lanes across. On top of that, you have so much beads pressure between Rat and Hercules or Kumba Karn. Kumba Karn is his own tier of beads threat. He has 3 different abilities that you have to be worried about from CC. One of them is a little bit harder to predict on it immediately with that epic uppercut at such a very fast, very short range CC. But if you can predict it, it's great. He'll only get the damage from there. But then you still have to deal with the yawn. You have to deal with the groggy strike. And as mentioned, it is one of the most telegraphed abilities in the game. It's literally him standing there for 2 seconds going, hippie, 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 hippie. Yep. Circetta, a great god to be able to kind of cancel that one out. I think that Circetta is going to be kind of the key factor to keeping this Kumba Karna at bay more than anybody else. If Cerberus can land the paralyzing spit, another great option to try and fight into this one. But this is going to be a very heavy early duo lane battle more than anything. Cerb Charybdis, you're clearing lane no problem. Ishtar Kumba, not so great in the lane clear. I mean, Ishtar is more than going to make up for it compared to Kumba, but Kumba's best form of wave clear is also his best form of CC. That belly bump that he gets from the first ability is okay, but I don't really like using my dash to clear the wave in that regard. So I think a lot of focus towards this dual lane is probably we're going to see a lot of action from just what we heard from the captains, but also here in this draft.
Exactly. Well, that's it. That's the teams. It's game 3. It's all or nothing. Who's going to the finals? Let's find out. I send it over to Dawson and Gormizer for the game.
Yeah, we're on our way towards a matchup against Team Davey, who, look, Team Twig took him to the brink today, but Team Davey still snagged themselves a win. So we'll see between Khastik and Rudy who's going to end up matching up against them in a best-of-5 grand finals tomorrow. But before that, we'll have our best-of-3 third-place match. Some big names coming out of picks and bans here, Gore. E-Shell been banned out pretty consistently throughout the day, and we'll get our first look here in the SMITE Content Creator Cup Grand Finals. No, not Grand Finals. Final weekend. Final 2 days. Content Creator Cup final matches.
TM. Nobody can take that. That's all ours.
I dare you to try.
The full title. Every word that Dave just said. Yeah, no, the semis here. I'm really.
There we go.
Again, the way that they've been playing it. Yeah, that's
the word for it. It's not the last one. It's not the third to last. What's the second to last one?
You know, you've got your finals on one side. Right. On the other side, when you've got eight teams, and that's like your quarter final.
Yeah, right. But there's something in between those.
Yeah, like what's like between
you don't
a
go
fourth
from 8 to 2. Right?
Yeah.
Semifinals. That's what it is. Our first look at E-Shell here this weekend.
I love E-Shell.
Yeah, I agree.
And I'm really excited to see how this works out because I feel like we haven't gotten to see in like a competitive setting a lot of like really, really good E-Shell. I think a couple Paul games. That might be it. And even then, I think one of those did not go well. So a god that since release I've really wanted to explore more of and who is, I think, going to have a pretty good time in the current meta. And it's going to be a question of the healing and the damage numbers. I'm also really interested in these jungle matchups because now, not Circetta's back, although on a different player, Valo the one playing it, but Rat Squid actually being on an assassin means that unlike last game, I think we have someone who can get active and try to get some stuff done in mid and really just around the map. Plus, having a semi-global ult really helps things out. I really think that between Rat Squid and this E-Shell, you'll have a lot of damage.
Oh. Whoa, over in the mid lane, Rat Squid. Maybe considering going back in on Happen. Gets a little heal from XD on the E-Shell. Valo's got to be careful here as well. Goodness, razor thin margins. Over in mid lane, blink forward from Rat Squid in first blood. But Valo doesn't have anything to answer back. Team Costic on the board. It's the Ratatosker, Gore, you call the name. It shows up in its first blood right away. So often we've seen, well, the last 2 games, we've seen the dual lane be the early game difference maker. Now this Ratatosker an opportunity, a little extra gold in the pocket, start to get things rolling in game 3.
And honestly, again, it's going to be the capability, like you've got CC now that admittedly you had the CC, but the follow-up and the damage, the chase down, and that's not even including a Ratatosker ult. Like, there's so much more that is going to come from Rat Squid, and then you've got this E-Shell like this.
Yeah, one more auto! Hit the auto! Oh no, he's behind the
Hit your shots!
Behind the bastion!
Hit your shots!
There you go. XT just needed the cooldown. Nice try by Happen, but it's another Now affected kill by Rat Squid. I don't think ever left mid. I think was just kind of hanging around. Now Valo and Happen both fall prey to the Ratatosker. And that's free ultimate. That's pre through the Cosmos. See what Rat Squid can get done here in a couple of levels, but a great start for Khastik.
I mean, pretty much the best start you could think of when you get to shut down a god that was doing pretty well last game, that can do a lot of damage in the Nuwa. You don't get the kills on Devalo, which probably would have been pretty helpful, but
most on Happen.
Being able to kind of ruin Happens moments, you get your both of them now to level 5 first for Rat Squid and the E-Shell. So now you've got ultimates online, which just enables so much more. I mean, it is going to open up a whole world of hurt in the mid lane. And then you really get to start seeing some rotations. I imagine this Ratatosker now with the ultimate is going to be able to jump on left, right? Put Rudy into an uncomfortable spot, although it's a Charybdis, so uncomfortable is, you know, a little harder for Charybdis when you can just jump into a whirlpool, run away, and not have to worry too much. Maybe you can come over here. I mean, a Hercules knock-up, push back into a Rat knock-up, stun. I mean, you could get a lot of damage. You could get a lot of combo.
Yeah.
I think Rat Squid, different player,
yep.
Same rat.
Yep.
And the Ratatosker will be able to get a lot done for the team. Too many rats.
Yeah, that name crossed my mind too. It took every effort of brain power.
Not say the wrong one.
All 2 of my brain cells were really working in tandem. Love a Ratatosker pick though. Showing up big for Team Costic. Start of this game. And really gets XD. Off to a nice start over in mid as well. I mean, you owe to your lane opponent. Getting that lane really handed to you off the get-go. Malachi and Grave versus Bop Bop and Rudy Igor has been the headlining matchup these last couple of games. Both dual lanes have had the opportunity to kind of dominate their lane opponent. For now. I mean, we're only 4.5 minutes in, so we'll pump our brakes here, but seems like both dual lanes okay with just farming things up and getting into that mid game. Maybe to your point, it's going to require jungle rotation. Uh-oh, Karmic.
Karmic's committed.
Is this a dive and just walking under tower? Goodbye, Rundus. Hello, Karmic. It's Osiris with a solo kill in the solo lane.
Shifters goes a long way. Osiris goes a long way. And unfortunately, Hercules just kind of takes his lumps there. Not much Rundus can do outside of hope that your cooldowns come up and that you're able to disengage. But when you're diving a tier 1 like that, yeah, you need a little more help. Now I'm starting to want the Ratatosker on this side of the map, not just for, oh, I'm going to make sure that you don't lose your tower or anything like that. I kind of want the ganks to start happening. I think pressure needs to be put on Karmic. We saw what Karmic can do in a good position in game, or in a bad position in game 1, in a good position in game 2. I don't want Karmic having a good game if I am Team Costic. I want to make sure that this lane is slowed down, is shut down, and controlled. And you can do that multitude of ways, right? You can try to put pressure on Valo and slow that down, or, and I think this is very important, but just gank, show face. Anytime that you show up in right, it's going to be, I think, advantages for you, especially if you get the kill, but more so like you can force a back without a teleport, if you can just get some farm stripped away, anything like that. It's going to be a pretty big win.
Got Blink, got ult. See some of it do some work here. Hovering over towards mid though, again, Rat Squid. I mean, Happens got ult now, didn't have ult for the first 2 deaths, got beads. I mean, you can still grab a kill onto the Nuwa, but much more difficult, especially if Happen is just going to be hanging out by that tier 1 tower. Could be maybe a rotation here from the mid and jungle of Team Rudy. We'll see what they do after capturing the neutral objective over on right. Rundus not overextended though, so maybe hard to find that opening onto the Hercules, playing safe enough himself. Games have slowed down in pace though, Gore. We were off to a breakneck pace in game 1, slowed down a little bit in game 2. Now after the fireworks early in game number 3, seems like both teams taking a breather, which is normally what we see, right? When game 3 is here, the stakes are a little bit higher and both teams a bit more risk averse.
Admittedly, it's also a little harder. I feel like both of these comps, yeah, that was kind of a lot harder than I thought that was going to hit as well.
Goodness.
It's just harder right now to get that advantage that you had in game 1 and game 2. Because in game 1, it was pretty easy. You had a Freya that you could just bully on the left side of the map. You were going to be up 10 kills no matter what you wanted to do. And in game 2, it was kind of the inverse, right? It was slowed down, in fact, to the point where the Sobek was putting so much pressure on everybody else that you were constantly getting flopped out of position, and that was bringing you into a spot where you were just going to get bullied. Now, you know, you pull Karmic. Karmic's just going to beat you down. You go for a stun in mid, and Nuwa just hits beads or goes up into the sky.
There's some dual lane action. Here. Brave's going to get towered over here. Yeah, he's dead. He's done. Valo is the only question mark there. Oh, I didn't see the minions. I was, so what are you doing? Oh, but Grave, 2v1. He'll take a tumble. Finally, some action from the junglers. Rudy, though, wow, he's in the maw. He's trying to get away here through the Cosmos. That puts Rat Squid down, but shoved aside by Rudy. A beam of light from XD over in the mid lane. Doesn't really hit anyone, though, because Rudy into the whirlpool. Malachi still on the chase, has the mez, a root right on the other side. Rudy stands. Can he deliver? Sure can, because now we've flipped. And Team Khastik headed onto the back foot. Well played by Rudy. Uses every bit of that Charybdis utility to stay alive.
Yeah, being in the whirlpool, it's that weird moment where you could see for the E-Shell, I want to get damage. I guess I'll heal Rat Squid, like, right? Just a little bit, throwing the beam around just to make sure that you've got that utility, but there's not much you can do, right? And when Rudy's playing the way that Rudy played, well-executed beads, well-executed ult, specifically as well, being able to immune out the knock-up and then get a stun afterward to create some more space. It's amazing that they were able to survive through all of that. And again, it's just playing calm and collected more than anything. Gets them back to a little bit of a reset spot, right? Now you get to look at where these teams are going, maybe where the pressure's going to go. Now you're missing ults for a lot of people, and so maybe there's an opening. Maybe if you're Undas, you're really hoping your team can get something done for you over here as well. Unfortunately, Nuwa means
hello.
Vision, vision, vision.
Right.
And they know where you're at. Valo might go for a steal, though.
Haven't seen this objective get stolen away much. Khastik starts it, finishes it, but it was close. Root onto Malachi, but epic uppercut onto Karmic. Doesn't matter. Karmic grabs the kill. There's a reinitiation. Goodness gracious. Look at the health bars of Team Rudy. You need someone to finish off these kills, though, because Happen is still here and Happen is still alive. Bop Bop taken down by Grave on the rotation over from duo lane. Why is there an Ishtar here? That's what Team Rudy are wondering, but Team Khastik happy about it. Goodness, we are going back and forth, 2 double kills. And it's Karmic up against Grave and Rundus because Valogore doesn't have the health to go back in.
But look at Valo hovering around, knows that Grave is going to be a threat. Unfortunately,
why you don't go back in?
It was this moment of if I can get Grave, I can kill him off. Valo got met by Hercules instead of the Ishtar, and suddenly it all crumbles. I also have to say, first off, Karmic is absolutely insane, and if they win this set, then Karmic gets my MVP for the set the way that they have been playing.
I'm thinking either way.
But I have to give it to XD001 on the other side, right? XD is in this spot where this E-Shell is hitting insanely hard. If you had a little bit of extra wiggle room in that, if Malachi hadn't gotten just absolutely shredded in the first 2 seconds of the fight, and you had a little more padding, this E-Shell is shredding people like crazy. The damage is really good. The kills, while they haven't been flowing heavily in her favor, right? She's only 1-1 and 3. It's the assists then that kind of show off what you've been doing. It's been a lot of setup, a lot of healing, a little bit of just damage everywhere to really kind of show the difference. And I want to see that facilitated. I want to see you playing with that in mind and like enabling the mid as a carry here.
Khastik, I think, hoping to get something away from Rudy. Still has bead, still has ultimate. Health bar still full. Rundus has been able to stabilize over here in solo lane core, and a lot of it has just been the fighting that's happened over on the right side of the map, but Karmic had the Hercules' number early in the laning phase. But Rundus stands strong and returns back into the fight. Rudy right back to the neutral objectives over here on right. I'm not sure Rat Squid will make it here in time. So a quick answer back from Team Rudy. And Gore, the closest game we've gotten through the first 12 minutes here in this best of 3.
And now 5-5. Although I think it is worth saying and worth pointing out, specifically for Karmic, how much this has been And admittedly, I thought there was going to be a lot more gold in their favor. It's only about 100 that you've got in solo lane. Karmic's been putting on a class act in terms of the Osiris. But you see it in the duo lane again, right? It's the carries that are really making a big difference here. And Grave, with that rotation, loses out on a little bit, doesn't get as much done, whereas Rudy kind of gets to free fire and show off what this Charybdis has been enabled to do by the team.
Rat Squad scurried into the front line, didn't find a stun. Make his way away. Good little chunk of lockdown. The E-shell rotation just so satisfying when you're able to hit all of it. An epic uppercut might start off this fight. Wow, that's a big loss. Rat Squid has to leap away. Goodness, I didn't see what quite got him so low. Maybe it was Valo. Yeah. Doug giving me the answers, as he so often did. Picks up right where we left off. Malachi scurries away, but he's into his passive. Rudy do their best to finish off the kill, able to do so, and it's Rudy who grabs it. XD steps forward, has to use the beads though. Don't want to lose too much more. You've already lost your support. Let's keep this tower on the map. Clean one-man pick from Team Rudy.
If it weren't for the fact that there's quite a few auto attackers on the other side, I'd be thinking that Malachi is going to be just fine in sleepy time passives, but between Rudy and Karmic alone, you've got too many autos flying your way to be able to survive a lot in that. And unfortunately, again, it's really starting to tell in the experience as they fall behind. And you see the supports, it's only one level, doesn't seem too bad. In fact, Malachi might be just around the corner from hitting a level 11 and catching up, but slowly extending that, having the Cerberus play the way they have. King Bop Bop has been very aggressive and in all the right ways and setting up a lot. And when you add that into the fact that your Osiris is diving in, you've got the Circuit to go and ult somebody or taunt somebody. I mean, there's a lot on the table for Rudy to start a fight as a team and for Rudy as a player to start a fight and follow through with his team. It's kind of hard to find responses, and you had called it out at the beginning of the fight, but did you really have as much of a hope when Rat Squid is pretty much instantly forced to use his ult for a disengage and unable to really be there for a majority of the engagement?
Yep. Well, and talk about the weight that we put behind Rat Squid. Rotated over to mid, couple of kills on to happen early. We said, all right, now this Ratatosker has got something to say about this game. Couple of assists since then, but hasn't quite been the world beater that we were expecting. A quick teleport over to left, but taking more damage than Rat Squid bargained for, I think. Rudy was right there and he was waiting. Fury awaits as well, so Team Costic potentially grouping up around there. Beads still down on XD over in mid. Teleport still down for Rundis, and yeah, your mid laner's gone as well if you're Team Rudy. These little individual picks is what's killing momentum, Gore, really for both teams. We've seen small leads on either side, and it's just one pick here, one pick there that's forced the at-the-time ahead team to really pause things out, and that'll be a Fury pull for Team Costic.
Now that's the big problem when you are in a position like this. It's just going to be a tug of war, and when it slows down, that's typically how we see it go.
Old Fury leashed a bit. Oh, man. Malachi's low. I'm not sure he got his passive back. Costic gets a Cold Fury. Oh, that's a massive Stygian Torment. Bop Bop pulls back. Team Costic pulls some beads off as well. But it's Valo at the front of the fight, followed by Rudy. And the jungler going wild here in game number 3. A perfect turnaround from Team Rudy. Fury +3.
And being able, look, that was a fight, admittedly, I mean, I don't know if it's one that they should lose or if it's one that they maybe shouldn't have rotated to. Maybe not one Team Costic wanted to take, and you had mentioned it, but dropping the Gold Fury when they did, it's so awkward, and we see this a lot with some of these teams where you got to make the decision to drop it before about 25%, right? Because if you drop it 25%, the other team's going to come in and scoop up. Costic does still manage to get it, but
I misread.
It is...
Forgive these tired eyes,
it's too close, right? There's no reason that 50-50 should be as much of a 50-50. You can drop it a little earlier. Now, yeah, you lose the Fury, but with 3 kills afterward, plus the Pyro, like, Team Rudy comes out so far ahead after anyway, it doesn't really matter that the Fury didn't go their way. And, you know, later on, the Fury scales with the game, right? So in 20 minutes, you know, losing a Fury like that would really hurt, and you might see some of the coffers change. But 16 in, 15 in, it's not going to be that big of a difference. And instead, for Team Costic, now you're trailing behind. You can see differences in some of the itemization, some of that, being born from just how Ratatosker is. You want to finish your Acorn before anything else. But knowing that you are looking at the carries, and that's at least where my eyes go to, I see a chin size plus a tier 2 in the bow. And meanwhile, on the other side, you're still trying to get to the chin size, right? You're missing out a little bit. And you've got the dominance versus, like, the executioner. Maybe there's a conversation to be had there. But, like, you're falling behind in damage. Same thing can be said for your supports, although it's just a little tier 1 thrown one way. And when we're looking at damage overall, while the E-Shell has done a lot in my mind, the new Law is still ahead.
What a scrap that was for Grave. He had no chance in the world. Team Rudy on a 3-man rotation. Brutal game from Grave, especially with how game 1 felt like it was off to such a good start and just not been able to repeat that early performance. I think Team Rudy have really been able to readjust their picks and bans, especially over in the duo lane, and limited Grave. Pretty big degree. Rat Squid takes a chunk of damage from Karmic. Slight rotation over from the Team Rudy jungler through the Cosmos. We'll send Rat Squid away. We've actually seen it, Gore, I think, more defensively than we have offensively. Blink forward, though. All Valo's waiting for him on the other end. And sends him back to base the easy way. A killing spree for the Circuit. Valo should be okay here, and it is. And a forgettable moment for Rat Squid.
Yeah, and maybe that's how they'd prefer it, given how things just shook out. Valo plays that so well. And I like the read from Rundus, but there's only so much you can do in a position like that. And even now, there's only so much you can do. You've got 2 tanks diving your tower. You need a little bit of help. Luckily, Gray's here. This might actually turn the tides, but your tier 1 so low, Valo's still in the neighborhood. Team Rudy, when you're making plays like that, diving a tier 1 that heavily and for that long, you're kind of acknowledging the fact that, you know what, you really do have the lead. You've got control. And you're willing to play little risks like that because what's the worst that Team Costic can do? Most of the time they haven't been able to turn around 1 kill, let alone being able to step up and find an objective afterwards. So this has been a good spot for them, and I like them testing the waters. Unfortunately for Team Costic, it's come at the expense of Grave and of Malachi and of Rat Squid, where one of them's going to die at some point or another.
Yep.
It's just which one is the one that gets picked off. And kind of like you said earlier, that's when the pace of the game is as it was in the early game here. That's a huge deal, getting just the one-off picks.
Rudy, a rip-roaring pace in the XP department. Level 20, but it was like 15, 20 seconds ago, maybe at 19 minutes. A farm machine on the Charybdis. And with the Primal Fury spawning, I mean, left side of the map, plus Valo, if Valo gets over there, Team Rudy is looking good to keep pushing this lead. Malachi agrees. He'll ward up the Primal Fury. But Gore, it's one of those 20-minute fights where if you're Costic, you're asking your team, you're asking yourself, is it worth it to try to fight this? Grave, is it worth it to be up this far? Yeah, just to be here. He is on the wrong side of the map. Now he's back to the right side of the map, but I think the Fury conversation simplifies a bit. Again, these individual picks have made a big difference here. Team Rudy.
They're going for more.
Looking good.
Oh,
might be able to rotate in, maybe to mid, grab a Primal Fury here at some point. Chaos side can do no wrong.
If they go through with that teleport, the team is calling for a Fire Giant. They don't. It's the let's get Pyro, let's get Primal, let's do a small reset like that. You lose your tier 1 in mid. Luckily, you've got the zone, although Rudy dropping that. Might have to go for the kill here before you do anything else.
Rat Squid's dominating presence.
Rat Squid, I mean, with ult and now with backup, this is not as free of a Fury as it was 10 seconds ago.
Blink. Is anyone blink for Primal Fury? Unsure. The fight will break out, though. Remember, this is an odd-numbered fight. Team Rudy so far ahead. XD on the retreat. Valo, my goodness, he's taking no damage, no return damage. Dodges out the pullback from Rundus through the Cosmos, finds the other backline. And it's Rudy starting off the fight with his 5th kill in a row. Double pullback from the Stygian Torment. Charybdis has been here, but Charybdis continues. Rudy delivers. 3 in a row and 7 in a row in the game. 3 + 2 = 5. It's a rampage on both jungle and duo. And Goran at 21 minutes, these are long death timers. We'll see how far Rudy can push it.
Oh man, I was gonna say I don't know if they could do it, but yeah, with the runic bombs, that changes my tune.
Wow.
Real fast. They might be able to do it right here.
Yeah, seems like it. Team Rudy, they go the distance, but they've got no one from Team Costic coming back up in the next 5 or so seconds. There's a lot of damage here. Malachi's gonna have to do a whole lot. XD's gonna have to do a whole lot as well. The Order Titan lives, steals a couple kills, but ends up dropping by the skin of their teeth. Team Rudy will take game 3.
And you got to talk about like the turnaround in the set overall. Although you had mentioned it, but when you go back and look at game 1, Team Rudy got into that game despite the fact that they were getting absolutely bodied for the first like 20 minutes. And so that was impressive from them to hold on to it. But the game 2, game 3 adjustments, and very specifically in this one, solo lane, they had the dominance. When it came down to mid, it felt like it was going to go the other way. The E-Shell was getting a lot of damage. You talk about those first couple of kills. You don't know what to see, but the duo lane went from locked up on the other side to locked in and really just got everything they needed. The pressure that they were feeling disappears. You switch over to the Artemis, suddenly you're able to get more kills. The Sobek was applying a lot of pressure in that lane as well. And then in this one, having the Charybdis, having that safety net, as well as just being able to push down, not worry too much about the jungle. The Ratatosker, unfortunately, as much as I wanted to see it, did not show up where it needed to. And so they just got to break through the team every time they stepped up to fight.
Yeah, from forgetful to remember my name. It's the story of the Team Rudy duo lane. But it's a content creator cup, Gore. It's all about having fun, and we had some fun there. A nice 3-game set.
I'm enjoying
Team
myself.
Rudy, who's going to move on. It's it for Gore and I today. The desk will break this one down.
We'll definitely try, because man, was that ending out of nowhere. Had us both jumping up quite literally and sprinting ready to see if it could actually go down, and it did. But it was a crazy end at that, and a crazy set that followed. I found myself really impressed by the comeback arc that we've gotten to see.
And it's something that we've noticed out of Team Rudy, even through the earlier stages of the Content Creator Cup, was even if they take a Game 1 spill, it's usually kind of that moment of, okay, what did we do wrong? What's kind of their gameplay, their style that the opponent wants to play? And then it's the adaptation in game number 2, and then eventually, and because of that, game number 3 a little bit later down the road. And Team Rudy almost took game number 1, so they were never entirely out of it, even at the early portions of the set. But being able to bounce back is always so critical. And at the end of the day, it also just goes to show when you build a team that's so heavily reliant on a lot of your sustain and a lot of your staying power in team fights, when you just remove that healing factor from the game and you pick a god like Serket and you throw the Osiris in the mix as well, when you don't got your heals, you can't really do a whole lot. Also, the fact that this Charybdis is still as crazy as it is, I did not expect to see coming out of the 9-5 revert and over the course of the last couple of months. I did not expect Charybdis to rise up as much as she did, but the buffs that came her way patches before, then the 9-5 revert coming through has made this god so exceptionally powerful in that dual lane. Quick and easy clear, great late game boxing. The attack chain that she has as well makes it so devastating to really be able to stack up things like Kin Size, Executioner as well, and even throwing things like the Odysseus bow in there make Charybdis such a great god in boxing that I wouldn't be surprised if maybe a little bit later down the road in this event, whether it be in the bronze match to the finals tomorrow, if we start seeing some ban towards that hunter.
It might just have to be the case. I mean, numbers certainly do not lie. JMac, the numbers are there throughout this entire day of what Charybdis has been able to accomplish. And, I mean, look at that. And that was with different builds throughout the day, too. We haven't even fully settled on our final form build of what's going to make Charybdis hit at those true levels we're expecting to see. So, like you said, tomorrow, bronze match, finals, maybe we'll see it then, or maybe we won't see it ever again, and maybe that opens up room for, I don't know, let's get crazy. Maybe we can see a Kuzenbo this weekend. Lots of stuff that can still be left untouched, and we can hope for it tomorrow. I doubt we'll see it, but we can hope.
Look, as much as I would love to see the turtle, I doubt that god is ever going to make it through a ban phase unless something else so much
It would be Captain Twig's team, and they're like, oh, let's let it through.
It has to be something so much more insane in a game 1 or game 2 of a set prior to allow that kind of a god through. I think as much as I love Kumbhakarna as a concept, the amount of CC he provides, he is awful to play into against a Charybdis of all gods. Like Charybdis, Yorm, Fafnir are 3 gods that essentially nullify his passive. Like Kumbha, if he goes down near Charybdis and he doesn't have the yawn ready, you're losing that entire pass. Like, you're just not getting any real value from there. So as good as Kumbhakarna can be into compositions that really get kind of hamstrung by the amount of CC that he has, when he's just dying in like a second and a half
Yeah.
to a Charybdis auto attack chain, there's not a whole lot you can do there. So maybe put that one back on the shelf for a little bit, maybe give it a little bit more time to kind of manifest itself and see maybe what comes up from there. But I think the bounce back from Team Rudy is kind of the big thing with this team. And it's kind of been the story of the squad has been, even when they have a bad game 1, usually game 2 they bounce back pretty quick. I don't think, to my knowledge, that Team Rudy has ever had a 2-0 fallout in either match. I think almost all their losses have been at a 2-1.
Well, let's see where we're at so far, with tomorrow being the day of finals. Let's take a look at that bracket now and see the damage done. Team iDavy with a 2-0 over Team Captain Twig were the first ones to lock down their slot in the finals. They will meet Team Rudy, who were able to take the 2-1 as you just saw, which means our third place match is going to be Team Captain Twig versus Team Costic. That's going to be a game where we have fun. I think that's pretty much a guarantee of that game. And the finals, iDavy and Team Rudy. A big talking point, a big discussion has been that iDavy is the unknown. They're the EMEA team of what are they going to bring to this. They had such a strong run throughout the Content Creator Cup, and Team Rudy's got to find some kind of answer before they get into it if they want to be able to lock it down, J-Mac.
Yeah, it's the 2 #1 seeds, the #1 from EMEA and iDavy, the #1 from Team Rudy for North America as well. So we get to see the top 2 teams overall of the event now battle out for that best of 5. But I think that third place match is going to be a lot of fun as well, watching Captain Twig and Costic. Now that maybe the stakes aren't as high, they can have a little bit more fun between their matchups, kind of see what selection is going to get picked up from there.
That's going to be the big stuff for sure. And remember, that happens tomorrow starting at 11 a.m. Eastern here on SMITE Game to see those finals. I'm excited for it. I know J-Mac's excited for it. That's going to do it for us today. Thanks to everyone who worked hard on it. And you yourself be safe and be here tomorrow at 11 a.m. for the conclusion of the tournament. Have a great day. See you next time.
Made in Georgia.